Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on in to the brightest night of the week. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, roll on in with the tide. It's Upsurge UPL Finals, and it's joined here. My name is Travesty, and I'm joined here with somebody who has just a sweet, sweet voice. He brings the finest quality of audio. Well, it's audio, of course. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I've been waiting for this night for a long time, the UPL Finals. It's been a crazy road to get here. We've had one of the most interesting postseasons the UPL has ever seen, but it all comes down to issue is critical in First Blood Crusade.
Yeah, I love the fact that you talk about that too, because of the fact that this has been a season that's been wild ever since the very beginning too, which we have so many different stories that were created, that finished, that were going on, that are still ongoing. And like you were just talking about, here we are at our final destination. Issue is critical, taking on First Blood. And I don't know about you, man. You already said it. I'm excited just to see what these two teams are going to be able to dish out against one another. But with that being said, there's a little bit of a conversation piece I would love to bring up here. There's something that's just so utterly fantastic that I just can't keep a secret for too much longer. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we have something brand new. We have the All UPL, also known as it's kind of like an All Star. Okay, it's All Stars, but we're calling it All UPL because there's something that shines brighter than stars. It's our UPL players, and we want to go over and give you guys a fresh look at all of the finest of competition. Over in the top lane, we had Tenacity from the side of 100 Thieves Next in third. We had Dragoon from Issue is Critical over in second, and in third, Orgless, 3 in Warrior. Well, I think I actually got them all flipped around. 3 in 1 Warrior was third, Dragoon was second, and then Tenacity was first.
And in the jungle position, in third place, it is going to be Hiyami from First Blood. Second place, it is going to be Ken V from 100 Thieves Next. And first place is going to be Hyper from Issue is Critical.
That's absolutely correct. And when we flip over to mid lane, now that I'm not going to scuff whatever rankings there actually was, we got Young from Orgless in third, Copy from 100 Thieves Next in second, and you got Command Attack leading the way in first for the mid laners.
For bottom lane, in third place, we're going to have Meech from Issue is Critical. In second place, it's going to be Vex from Orgless. And first place, All Pro ED or All UPL EDC is Otto from 100 Thieves Next.
And for the role that has my heart, support. Over in support in third, you got Uganda from Issue is Critical in third place. Second place is Cat Ears from Orgless. And first place is Poom from 100 Thieves Next.
Joining in ADC in the first all UPL team. It's going to be exciting watching Otto.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. But man, you know what? I may have scuffed my my reading of the top lane, but there's something I'm not going to scuff. And ladies and gentlemen, I just got to throw it over to this ever so beautiful video as we are going to announce who the season MVP is. Completely here, so that is going to be the build of choice. Command Attack in a very scary situation. Flash forward, they're looking for it. Event Horizon's going to be able to tag the Azir and a primordial burst.
In the Shadow Realm, he's looking for a kill here. Exactly, he wants the shutdown gold, but the Shadow Realm is about to come up. He gets the kill, and they're able to turn this around now. That's going to be the engage here from Nautilus onto the GP as he TP's in, but he's biting off too much, and that's going to be another.
Sometimes that's all you need to send the rest of your squad top lane, so that they can get this top lane tower and back off.
Oh, baby, the Shurima shuffle, it's clean. Senna gets taken out of the...
Are very low for Orgless. Command Attack still looking for something possible here. Does have to speed up. Is getting that major Q onto him. Laying out some damage. Has the tether onto him. City Witty is going to find himself getting dropped down. I think that's going to be able to pick up 1 kill for himself as they go ahead. They're continuing it on forward, and that's just basic kicking in. King bets his face.
Oh my word!
Possibly the miasma is there, but he doesn't care about any of that. The double kill coming in. This Lee Sin is absolutely unstoppable. He's going to find himself getting shot down. Lunatono now is going to be taken for a ride as Set has rejoined the fray. Command attack finding another.
Moves in to try and secure this top inhibitor. Rodolph will engage, getting the knockup down. The rest of the members are piling in. Tidal Wave comes out. There's the showstopper. Gets a decent amount of damage on the King Back, forcing the flash backwards to safety. A beautiful engage stopper from Piper, getting in the steadfast presence, denying TMK to be able to make the play. Suddenly, 3-man petrifying engage. Can it be enough? However, Rodolph is still alive, but it's the damage that matters in this way.
And what about that? That is just absolutely fantastic. First time that we've been able to have a show-stopping video like that there. And our congratulations, of course, to Command Attack for winning the season MVP. And you got to say, definitely well deserved if you see how he plays inside this team. Issue is critical, especially last week, man. Audio, they are riding a whole new high.
Absolutely. Congratulations to Command Attack. Not only getting MVP, but first all UPL team as well in the mid lane. Quite an impressive way to crown off his season here. And it would be even better if you could walk away a UPL champion and in itself. I mean, he completely deserves it, like you said. I mean, this man has such impressive stats in the regular season. He was 3rd place in KDA, 3rd in goal per minute. But what I thought was the most impressive coming out from this player was that he was 12th in gold share on his team. So all these advantages, all these solo kills, these farm leads that he was able to accrue for himself, it was all by himself. It was through his hard work, his dedication, and he allowed his team to go make plays elsewhere on the map and still pick up.
And that's a fantastic thing to think about because it shows that they're able to put their resources elsewhere, and he will create his own advantages. Something you love to see in any player inside of League of Legends when it comes down to a competitive game like this, a low resource player that has such high value. And that's exactly what he brings into the table. But, you know, we have talked a lot now, talking a lot about Issue is Critical. We got to kind of flip the script a little bit here. First Blood. This is a team that ever since they have made a roster change, they've only dropped 1 game. They haven't dropped a series since they have made this roster swap.
Yeah, when you look at First Blood Crusade and you look at their roster, and Robbie Bob is one of the most lackluster names on there. And I don't say that as the day he played phenomenally since they came in. But, I mean, he was 4th highest KDA. He had some of the highest CS per minutes in the league. His kill participation was kind of low. He was a bit more of an island player, but you could always trust him to be that kind of solid split pusher. And when that is the player that we look at this roster, and he is the last name that we immediately want to talk about, I mean, they've got such superstars on this team. You've got Tony Top, Hiyami, Asta, and Mist in the bottom lane. It's absolutely crazy, the super team they've put together. And you're right, since they did put this roster in effect, they've been unstoppable.
Yeah, and you gotta think, you know, the one team that did take the game off of them was Orgless. They were the one team to take a game off of them ever since the roster changed around. And Issue is Critical had a very, very convincing 3-0 versus Orgless actually last week. So there's a little bit of momentum that's coming in here. So we're seeing 2 teams that are quite possibly playing at their peak going into a best of 5.
Yeah, it's critical. They needed that win, to be honest. They had just come off a defeat to First Blood Crusade, knowing that they might again meet them in the finals. It's not what you want to see going up against your future opponents. So the fact that they were able to close out that series on Orglis so cleanly was really a welcome sight. That maybe they just had a bad day. Maybe they can go up against this star-studded roster with the incredible names that they have on their team. I mean, all of the Issue is Critical members made all UPL teams. Not all of them made first place. That was just Hyper and Command Attack, but at least second or third for each one of these members. So there are no slouches either, and they are definitely your best chances at taking down that incredible.
Yeah, First Blood are looking like the kings on the throne, but they haven't been able to grab their crown just yet. They got to go through this best of 5 here, and you got some obstacles in front of you. There were of course, a couple players from First Blood that found themselves on to the All UPL, and they are going to be very interesting roadblocks for Issue is Critical to be able to deal with. And it does come into question. I love the fact that you go into the psyche here when you talk about, man, these guys, Issue is Critical did lose to First Blood at one point in time. They got sent to losers by First Blood, and that could be a little bit of a mental block, especially when it's just a clean 2-0.
That's what they're going to have to overcome. This is the redemption game for Issue is Critical. This is them saying, we do deserve to be a top team. We have obviously some of the best players in their roles in every single position, and we're not going to be, bullied around by First Blood. We're here to retake that throne. And I want to see them explode and clean up First Blood as quickly as they got cleaned up the last time they met. That would definitely be something to see. But I imagine this is much more likely going to be a pretty hard-fought battle. I'm hoping for 5.
You know what? I'm hoping for it too. We're definitely going to see some nail biters in terms of games here, because these are two teams that are definitely going to be able to look to turn the tables on each other if either one of them makes a mistake. I am just excited for how curious draft is going to be between these two teams, because there's so many niche picks that are out there. There's so many champions out there that are just so insane to be able to watch inside of League of Legends. And some of these players have some very, very wide champion pools. So that itself creates a very exciting atmosphere.
Yeah, and there's so many great picks in the meta right now. You still see the popularity of a lot of those power picks like the Ornn and the Aphelios, but I love to watch the roaming supports that have been just so prevalent in this meta. Watching the Rakans and whatnot just move all over the map, and you have Mist and Ugandan Royalty, who sometimes are a bit more lane focused, but we have seen them on many occasions make great roaming plays. I think it could be a huge benefit to your team in the early stages, and I kind of hope that's what we see from.
That's exactly what I want to see. I want to see these teams finding their own particular groove, because I do think that's where the strength in amateur teams are, is when you find that groove and you're able to stick with it, make it work for yourself. However, it's like you said, there are those stable champions as well, like the Ornn, the Aphelios. There's all sorts of different champions that are so powerful. And when you have players that are already so mechanically freaking gifted on each team, it becomes a very, very dynamic duel inside of the champ select, and an even bigger one once you find your way onto the fields of justice.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I mean, let's look at some of these matchups, right? Because
Yes.
when you look down the line in the top lane, a big story between Tony Top, who has been arguably, convincingly so, the best top laner that the UPL has right now. But he's going up against Dragoon, who is this young blood, this fresh face that's coming in. Was had a great last season, and then now is challenging Tony Top for that spot. I would not be surprised if both the junglers wanted to chip in on that debate, try to nudge around top laners and really try to influence that lane, because this could be kind of the end-all tell-all of who actually gets to keep that spot.
But junglers going top lane? No. Different lane. But you're absolutely correct on that. Like, one of these top laners, if they're able to start getting advantage, top lane is the role that is the most notorious for, if you get a lead, it's like a boxing match. Whoever gets the longest reach at that point in time just tends to win out inside the top lane. And that could be a definite storyline that is a very real reality that could possibly come out of this game. And I'm going to be excited to see if that is going to be what they are going to look at. And we'll be getting in champ selects here very shortly as the teams are getting prepared. And you were talking about top lane, and we've talked a bit about mid lane. How do you feel about the bot lane matchup actually here going up against one another?
It's so unfortunate to say that when you have names like Asta and Mist and the other side Meech and Ugandan Royalty, that this might be the least actionful lane that we see all series. But it's just because we have so many crazy talents in the top half of the map. But still, I mean, when you look at First Blood Crusade, I mean, when you have Asta, who coming from Optics, tier T3 team and their academy team, is an already pretty well-known name and has always been a solid player with above average stats, and then followed up by somebody like Mist, who again is a really solid laner and maybe not one of the most overperforming supports in the UPL, but he is another one of those rocks in the bottom lane. They are the known quantities that we have in this match. We know they're going to be good. The question is, can Meech and Ugandan Royalty really start to pressure this lane? Meech is another one of those kind of up and coming names trying to take the top spot of the ADC role, make a name for himself, and he's going up against a name like Anda. Perfect place to do it. Welcome to the Meech Show. The late game star of Issue is Critical. So I really want to keep my eyes on these players later on in the game. If the junglers and the top laners can keep the aggression under control and actually let the game go that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be really excited to see exactly what will come out of it. I think the bot lane, like you said, it might be not the most action packed, but it definitely is where the Drake spawn. They spawn over on that side, so we do see a lot of teams have differentiating play styles. Some teams seem to value Drakes in the early game. Some tend to value the gold that you can get from getting Shelly in the early game and rotating that around, which does lead us into the matchup between Hyper and Hayami. I'm very excited to see this because one, we saw Hyper, aka Basic Blonde, just styling last week. But Hayami is one of these super hyped players as well inside of the jungle role, and everybody, like you talk to like people that are casting in the amateur scene, they're like, dude, I love watching Hayami play. The dude is a monster in the jungle.
Hayami's the highest KDA jungler that the UPL has, and he's going up against Hyper, who won first all UPL team jungler. So this is truly a clash of titans in the truest sense here in this jungle role. And I can't wait to see it. I would love to see Hayami bring out something like the Kindred once again that he played in game one against Issue is Critical last time. Also the Rek'Sai, one of his favorite champions, but just these aggressive picks that are going to allow him to make a big splash early is probably what we're going to see out of him. Will he actually get those picks though? Because especially the Rek'Sai had such a great performance that I think it may be understandable if that goes to the ban.
Yeah, it might not make its way through the draft, and that's a very interesting thing too. Is the early draft of the what do you not want people to have priority on? Well, the jungle is actually a very scary thing between both of these because of the fact that they do have these very aggressive champions that are inside of their pool that can make an impact in the early game. And either one of these teams, when they get rolling, traditionally they just tend to just keep it going.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what First Blood has been doing this entire offseason. They're just speed running the playoffs, have been looking so incredible since this roster came to light for them. So will they be the unstoppable force that meets the immovable logic of Issue is Critical? And what's going to happen in this best of 5 series when they actually clash? I would be so disappointed if this was a 3-0 sweep either way. I think that would be the worst case scenario because with a storyline, all the storylines coming together perfectly like this, this is going to be one hell of a game.
And I know you corrected yourself with saying
I think I lost you there. Ooh, well, unfortunately, we did lose Travis. But...
just able to push their way on through. And that will be a fun time to see how everything will be able to go on out as I believe we should be getting into draft here very shortly.
Yep, just waiting for those last couple players to get in, move around to the right positions. We will be heading into draft phase quite shortly. big question though. Do you think we're gonna see Command Attack's signature Vigar come out in this series? You saw the big highlight play in the MVP video. Does he bring it back out?
Uh, you know what? I think the Vigar is a very interesting champion because it works really well with it, the event horizon. You lock him in the baby rage cage, throw away the key. I'm actually more curious on the Zillion if it's going to get through because whenever I see command attack, I made the same comment last time. This is like the champion that I associate the most with a command attack is him being able to play Zillion and be able to just not even just control the map, but also just deny everything the opposing team wants. And we're getting in the draft, and look at it. Zillion already banned. A prophet, am I?
Are not going to let that pick go over to Command Attack. No way. It is going to be the Jax plus Ezreal first banned out for Issue is Critical, and then rounding it out with that Kid.
Yeah, I'm seeing it going on through there, flying through these bans. They knew exactly what they wanted, and first pick is going over to Issue is Critical. What do they want to put priority on? It's the man who drools on himself, Ornn. Let's get it.
No surprise there. The Ornn's such a powerful pick when you just look at all of the free gold that you get in your inventory, as well as the long range engage. The standard pick against that will be the Trundle. It's going to be able to cut down on those ridiculous free resistances that the Ornn can get. Hasn't been quite locked in here. They still do have the option to go for something a bit more aggressive for Hiami, or just pick up one of their solo laners. It's going to be the Vladimir.
Yeah, I like this. This is a good response to an Ornn. Give you something that scales. It matches up against Ornn fine. You can put it somewhere else if you like. Now, the second pick is up to them. And I'm curious, what will they want to pick? And it's an insta-lock on the Varus.
Yeah, this is a very safe first round of the draft phase for First Blood. They've gotten their late game win condition already in the top side by placing Tony Top on that Vladimir against the Ornn. And then they've gotten themselves a very solid laner in the EDC. What they've done is really held their hand to what the rest of their composition is going to be. Is it going to be an aggressive jungle mid duo? Are they going to have a roaming support? That's what they're going to save for the second half of the rotation and try to wait until a bit more information on Issues Critical's draft comes to light. They are going to grab that Lee Sin.
Yeah, Hyper's on Lee Sin again. And if you saw it on the graphic earlier, that's because it's a champion that he likes to kick people's faces in with. So I am ready to see this come to life and see what he'll be able to pop out. And a support pick as well to complement it, a Thresh to add to some pick potential for their team.
Yeah, and it's going to be answered with the Rek'Sai. So we're going to see Hiami on Rek'Sai going up against Hyper on Lee Sin. I could not ask for a better matchup. This is surely to be a fantastic one. But I'm curious as what the mid lane picks are going to be. We see some relative safety coming across in both side lanes from either squad. And none of the mid lane picks have been banned away except for that Zillion. So there's the option to get some pretty crazy here.
Yeah, it's actually very curious to see what pools are getting pinched. We see the Callista ban actually already coming out from First Blood Crusade over on the blue side. They're taking their time with it, deciding on what they want to ban, and it looks like it will possibly be a Braum ban. So it looks like we might see a bot lane pinch all together from both sides.
Yeah, making sure that they can't pair that Varus with anything super safe. The Tom Kench is the last one that you would want to take away. I would have assumed that would have been the first ban coming through.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if they take it off the table. First Blood Critical also banning the Xayah. Kind of both sides doing the same thing, taking away the super safe ADCs that have those get out of jail free cards. The Ezreal, the Xayah, the Varus did slip through, but this is shaping up to get pretty aggressive bottom lane if we have a bunch of these low mobility ADCs.
You see the Kassadin ban that came on out, First Blood. The Nets ban is for them, and I'm imagining they're probably going to pick up their support pick here.
Likely the Tom Kench did go through, so if you want one of the safest lanes you can get, or get a little bit more engaged, use that power that Rek'Sai offers in the early game, set him up for some crazy ganks. This is what we asked for. The roaming potential First Blood Crusade is going to deliver.
Yeah, I love this pick. It gives them a little bit more engaged too. They were a little bit lacking in that department, so I absolutely love this. Now, Issue is Critical. It's their turn to respond. Got an AD carry that they can have to pick up here, and they're going to be picking their mid laner blind.
Yeah, notably the Aphelios is still on the table. is very low mobility, but you have that Thresh in your back pocket to get you out free with the Lantern, and that's going to be enough safety for Issue is Critical to grab a pretty star marksman for their lineup.
Yeah, Meech, of course, got himself I believe he got a pentakill last week on the Aphelios, so is a big champion to take note of, and it looks like Issue is critical. It's going to go ahead and lock themselves in. Azir for command attack, now First Blood. What is going to be their answer to
Please
the
don't be
Emperor?
Corki Azir.
Corki Azir.
They already have a Vladimir. They don't need any more late
Azir
game
Corki,
scaling.
Azir Corki. Come on.
They're probably looking to either pick up a front line or a little bit more engaged, a little bit more team fight. It could be Robbie Bob locking in the Vigar against command attack. Get a little nod of his head to the great play he had in the last series.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty fun to watch here. We got a very interesting composition actually coming out from First Blood, while Issue is Critical. They have a very unique composition as well that we stereotypically would see from them, but both these teams, they're definitely coming in with some very interesting tools to their disposal going into this game.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at all the pick on First Blood Crusade with the Nautilus having the unescapable CC and knockup, and then it's so easy to layer everything else on top of that. You're looking at Varus, Rek'Sai, and Viger having that pretty easy to land CC and immobilize targets. Meanwhile, Issue is Critical really wanting to play against the clock here. They have a little bit of pick potential of their own with the Lee Sin and the Thresh. Expect them to probably roam around as a duo for the good first 15-20 minutes of the game. But after that, I mean, it's all about scaling, waiting until you can get those big items on your Aphelios Azir, waiting for Ornn to upgrade those items even further, and playing for those late game team fights. If First Blood Crusade do not get off to a decently sized advantage, it might look a little bit scary here in game 1.
Yeah, I was about to say there's actually a very interesting amount of scaling in general for both teams. You got a Varus and Vlad Vigar on one side, and then on the other side you got an Azir, Aphelios, and Ornn. These are all three champions that scale incredibly well into the late game, some for different reasons than other. But it does lead to a very interesting point that the early game presence for the most part that we're seeing is out of the jungle and support. And that's very interesting since that's both sides picking an aggressive support and jungler.
And we kind of mentioned before the game that we expected the bot lane to be a bit safer and see a bit more action between jungle top or jungle mid. We were completely off the mark here because now 2 immobile ADCs and 2 supports with long range hooks combined with 2 aggressive junglers mean this should be a bot party all the time. I expect possibly 4 teleports through this game, 2 on either side at least. We may even see some more from the ADCs themselves because we should have plenty of action.
Yeah, they heard you, man. They were like, look, this guy, he's expecting us not to have action on the bot lane. All right, hold up. Let's draft something that's going to just be inviting the jungler down to the bot side. And that's exactly what they did. 2 junglers that are very successful at being able to gank, have many ways to gank. And it's going to be very, very fun to be able to watch. It also just add a layer into what could possibly go wrong here, because you were talking about the scaling. Scaling, when it's scaling versus scaling, whichever champion tends to get ahead is just going to blow that lead out of the water.
The advantage over to Issues Critical, though, is that they do have 3 technically scaling carries. You do have some infinite scaling on the Vigar, and the Vladimir scales incredibly well as well. But the Ornn is going to be the just one piece of the puzzle that's going to push Issues Critical over the top. Now, is there a world in which past 50 minutes First Blood Crusade is able to win a team fight? Absolutely. They've got some great team fight tools with the Baby Cage and the Vladimir ultimate. But in a standard 5v5 front to back, I would say that there is a higher ease of execution on Issues Critical's composition.
Yeah, they're definitely the team that has a natural way to force fights, I think, a little bit easier. I mean, when you have an Ornn, that becomes a lot easier immediately. But they do have a bit more, like you were talking about, 5v5 potential. They can be a little bit more proactive with the fact they have the Ornn and Thresh to pair alongside with it. So they do have that the initial engage and the follow-up, while One of the things that I am seeing that's missing from First Blood is they don't really have like a true, like, let's start up a team fight. They're much more related to grabbing picks and fighting off of those.
Most likely be Robbie Bob's job. Probably going to go with the Glacial Augment on the Vygar that allows you to build into the Hextech GLP and the Spooky Ghost, so you can look for those longer range engage through Fog of War, get that giant AoE slow, and then, like we said, once that initial CC comes through, there's so much easy to land CC on the side of their composition that can lock just one or multiple members down.
You know who really enjoys when all the champions are stuck in a condensed area? Like, there's one champion in particular on First Blood that really enjoys that, and his name is Vladimir. Tony Top. If you actually get in the dream scenario where Robbie Bob's actually able to put down the cage, even if he doesn't kill anybody, Tony Top's going to be looking to do so if there's just the right people stuck inside that cage. That's going to be very pivotal, I feel like, is the flanking coming out of Tony Top as well. We got to keep our eyes on the flanks especially, and I think vision control is going to be very important inside of the series.
Yeah, and obviously that perfect team fight scenario is something that First Blood will always want, but you have to recognize the tools that are going to be working against them. When you have the Azir disengage, the Thresh Lantern to just give somebody a get out of jail free card, the Lee Sin ultimate, there are tools for Issue is Critical to just say, no, we don't want this fight. We're going to make you blow your cooldowns and you're not going to get anything for it. So I definitely think this comes down to execution. And like you said, good vision control. If you can see where the engage is coming from, you can plan your disengage accordingly.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be very important. We've seen both of these teams actually have fantastic vision control. We've seen both of these teams press vision in the right times at the right places. So going to be keeping our eyes kind of seeing how each team plays around with the Fog of War for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be super important for both squads. I expect whatever jungler gets ahead to really start to dictate how the vision is going to go and what sides of the map they're going to play towards.
Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take ourselves a short break. Be sure to stick around for a word from our sponsors, as we'll be right back on the riff for Game 1 of the UPL Finals.
Started with a vision of quality, a vision of uniformity. We took the time to create something familiar yet refreshing, something with a bit of change.
Designed to fit any brand's unique vision.
Seems to follow like a shadow, dark and cold to the touch. Am I insane not to let go? Oh, go on, just do what you do. And it bleed for you, cry for you, oh, oh. Let me bleed. As I bleed for you, cry for you, oh, oh. Let me bleed.
ladies and gentlemen, and welcome on back. We are getting into game one of the UPL. If you're just now joining us, my name's Travis. I'm joined here by my co-caster Audio, and we are getting into game one of the finals here between Issue is Critical and First Blood Crusade.
One has been waiting for the culmination to the UPL season. All comes down to this one last series between two Titans, and you can see a pretty standard start from either side. Just going to be a 3-stack in the river for Issue is Critical here. Making sure nobody gets too cheeky and Hayami doesn't overstep his bounds.
I dare you to early ward. I dare you. Go for the early ward, Hayami. Don't be a coward. He's thinking about it, but is not going to be doing it. Won't be stepping into the ambush craftily set up by the Emperor inside that bush. Going into this, I want to ask you, what are we going to see these junglers try to go for first? Is there a particular spot you're going to be looking for them, or a particular trick we're going to be looking from these junglers as we go into the early game here?
Slightly the bottom lane. That's where the majority of the actual CC and gank assist is. But look at this. Issue is Critical want to make the first play.
Yeah, they're looking for it, and they're wanting to draw first blood, it looks like, as they're going right in, move their way in. Hello, Red Buff. Welcome to Basic Blonde, a.k.a. Hyper. He'll take that as easy as can be, and what a beautiful delayed invade.
Yeah, that's just a case of bringing more members to the fight. Issue is Critical brought over command attack to make sure that was going to go smoothly. Once they saw that it was a 3v2, Hayami just said, you know what, you can have it. I'm just going to go get a start on my blue buff so that I can lose as much from this, or lose as little from this trade as I can.
Yeah, and it's actually curious. You actually saw the pathing that Lee Sin did. He actually went for a early gank to push Rob Bob off so that way command attack could get some CS in his lane, and then turned around and went straight to his red buff. So this is going to be a 3-buff start for this Lee Sin.
Yeah, and we'll see what he's able to do with this early advantage. We'll be finishing his clear on the top side of the map with an Ornn that is getting shoved in a little bit. You know, TV or Tony Top, as long as you get that Sanguine Pool, which he should fairly soon, you should be safe from most ganks. And he has his flash up. So we'll see what Lee Sin can actually get done with this so far. Will be about a 2-camp lead.
Yeah, it's going to be very fun to watch, I would say. And it does lead into an interesting part because of him doing this 3-buff. It is going to leave him finishing up his rotation of camps over on the top side. So we'll see just a trade of scuttlers, I believe, here between the two junglers, as Rek'Sai's actually pinging possibly to go towards his top side area.
The Lee Sin backed and would be going down to the bottom side scuttle, but we'll see what happens if they meet, and it's going to be first on the roam for command attack.
Yeah, it's going to be them looking for it. Could be some possible mayhem, though, as the event horizon does come out. Does get the stun onto command attack, and I will find you. He finds a hook onto Meech. Now it's King over into the backside of this fight, taking a huge chunk of damage. Ignite going through, but it's going to tick away. First blood to this Nautilus in the bot lane.
You don't even need the junglers, the Varus and the Nautilus. Just the power of that engage and that 2v2 potential is able to get them a solo kill down on the bottom side while blowing the Thresh's flash. So really great job from them. That's going to set up First Blood Crusade to finally have a place to push in its early game.
Yeah, and all it cost them was an Ignite to be able to get said advantage, and was all started off of what was a beautiful hook coming out from the Nautilus. Wrap it around the minion waves and collapse onto it. Now Basic Blonde's over here into the top side. Tony Top's going to take a good amount of damage, but as you were talking about earlier, he's got that pool, so not in any real danger as long as he'll be able to use that.
It will mean that the Ornn can now collect this farm safely, prevents it from getting shoved under his turret and potentially missing quite a bit. And now the lane is going to bounce back towards Tony Top. So great that he didn't have to burn flash there. That means he can still play relatively aggressive. Look for those constant trades onto the Ornn and try to push him under turret.
Yeah, I was actually very curious there. He immediately pushed up with the minion wave to give him some safety inside of that while the Lee Sin was backing inside the bush. No pop-off play to come out from Hyper and on the Lee Sin. Not seeing that Vladimir as an open target. And you're seeing these supports already starting to roam around the map here as they're fighting for river control.
Yeah, and we've seen Hyper not really be as successful as I wanted him to be in this early stages, especially with the the level 1 3 buff start. I wish he would have committed a little harder to some of his lanes with gank assist. I know it can be hard when the lane you were pathing towards dies in a 2v2. But I mean, you look now and Hyami is just one camp behind, should be able to pick that one up pretty shortly, and has the bottom control for the Ocean Dragon that is now on the map.
Yeah, and they actually have a good ward to show them if they were to like move around and try to rotate on anything. And this is going to be an Ocean Drake that is started by First Blood, and this is just going to be as easy as theirs, as there's no vision on it, and they honestly just had the picture perfect pathing to make sure they'd be clean and good to go for it.
Yeah, and although this is gonna be
wait, King looking for something. Heads flashed on in there, misses everything. They are going to be able to get some damage onto the Varus. It is going to be able to blow his heal. Yami's here over onto the side, laying out damage as well as Zeus looking for a kill on the backside. Is Meech just going to find the Nautilus? Call the Forge God. Going to go a little bit wide, but it is going to be him headbutting his way in. Command attack. Finding a kill on the Hayami. They're still looking for more. This Varus, it got caught out, and it's gonna be Hyper picking him on up, and they're not done. It is just gonna be them dividing the Emperor, laying out the damage. The exhaust was used to keep the primordial burst down to a minimum. Robbie Bob looking to grab a kill on his way out, but Narcissus is gonna say, no way, Jose, get out of my mid lane, and is gonna be able to secure that kill for his team.
Just as I say, Issue Critical is not doing enough with their early game, they come out swinging with a 3-for-1 fight around the Ocean Dragon. They lose the objective, but they pick up so much gold afterwards. It started off with finding Asta alone and isolated from the rest of his team. It was great on him to juke that initial hook, but it seems like because he dodged that engage, it gave some false confidence over to First Blood Crusade. They decided to pick a fight without having the members there in place. You saw Dragoon was able to get there nice and early with a great Ornn ultimate, and then you really got to see the team fight capability of this composition start to shine, creating pockets of zones where command attack could just free fire, and you had Hyper creating just complete chaos in the backline, even finding the blind Q over the wall to eventually take down Asta afterwards.
Yeah, and that is to take note of after a fight where a lot of stuff was started with everything missing. King did not have a great start to that inside of the bot lane. He missed everything. He had the sun in his eyes, was not having a fantastic time being able to hit all the skill shots needed, but they were still able to commit, and that does speak volumes to what this team is able to do. We are seeing some pings over onto Shelly over on the top side, and that is an area that looks like it's a little bit in favor of Issue is Critical.
First Blood, now you're sweating a little bit because this is supposed to be the game where you get an early lead. The longer the game goes on, the harder it becomes to execute on these team fights. If you're starting to lose them just pre 9 minutes, what does this look like in another 20?
Yeah, and you can even see, like, looking at the gold, the advantages that are actually coming out here. Majority of it is on Hyper yet again here. As you look on the other side, it's from the AD carry, but we're seeing a dive coming in here into the bot lane. They've got the Baby Rage cage to support him, and that's a double kill for Robbie Bob after a fantastic roam to the bot side. They do have to give somebody's life up for it, but hey, they're saying worth in the chat.
And there's the power of the engaged tools for First Blood. You can see as soon as level 6s come in for Asta and Mist, they call Robbie Bob down, they use that Varus ultimate to lock someone down, and then just layer the CC, layer the damage on top of it. Good job to get one back onto Mist, but overall, a successful dive for First Blood. They got the kills, and they got a couple of turret plates onto their Varus.
Which is always very good, as we were just talking about in the AD carry position. That's where we're seeing a good bit of an advantage coming out from the other side from First Blood. They have a little bit gold up, and they're increasing that. They look at the CS differential between the two of them, as well as Meech really has been forced off of waves because of this action that's happened.
Thankfully, he has been farming champions, though, 2-1-1 on the Aphelios, and that is what has allowed him to be just 300 gold down from this Varus, even though he is down almost 30 CS at this point. He's been getting pretty bullied and pushed under his turret, has been without a flash most of the time, but at least he's picking up some trade kills here, and it's going to keep Issue is Critical's options very wide open.
Gonna have to keep an eye on the potential that's coming out here. Lots of lockdown that can come in all at once with a lot of the damage just coming out. The base damage is actually pretty insane from this bot lane altogether once they're able to lock everything in. But Call the Forge God being used over here in the top lane, trying to scare Tony Top. Said, hey, back it on up, as we're seeing some Glacial Augment coming on to command attack as he's taking a good chunk of damage in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. The Vladimir just uses Sanguine Pool, so you know you can get a ultimate off on him, but the Ornn nowhere near to even follow up on that engage, and just doesn't do really any damage. So I think that could have been saved for, you know, a jungler gank or perhaps a roam down to the dragon, but I guess no harm, no foul.
Yeah, he was playing psychology with him, you know? He's like, haha, if I'm using my ultimate right now, then that means my jungler's here. Flash now! And
his Flame Breath is actually doing more damage to Tony than the actual ultimate is. Now down to like a quarter HP. This dragon's going to be started up on the bottom side. They know the Vladimir doesn't have teleport.
yeah, Basic is doing it right now. This is a Mountain Drake. They get the flash knockup. It is still going to be a Mountain Drake that comes over, but he is going to be stuck on the side. Another kill, another stack of evil for Robbie Bob.
This time its Issue is Critical with the objective, but losing the fight afterwards. Now 3-1-1 on Robbie Bob's Vigra. This is starting to be a very scary carry.
King is in a scary spot right now, and Knight has been tipped away. I will find you, trying to lay out some of the CC that they need. As Varus is over here, he's got these piercing arrows laying out some deep damage, and here comes the dive. Hayami's over here. Remember this bot lane? They did this to you last time. It's just going to be the Void Rush, a Primordial Burst, blasting them down, and that is the bot lane of Issue is Critical found deleted yet again.
It is just continued dominance for First Blood now, especially Robbie Bob 4-1-1 on this Vigar has just exploded in his mid game. He's found another pick.
Yeah, it's actually funny. They immediately pinged him out.
Well, they want him.
They really want to go for him. They do get the Emerald's Divide. They're trying to lay out the damage. The Baby Rage Cage has been used. They kick him on through, and that is a shutdown for command attack. Now they're looking
they actually
to get out of this. TP has been used by the Ornn. They're grouping together, safety in numbers, and they will be able to find safety.
So although he falls, Robbie Bob actually did a fantastic job buying time there in that engage. The plan for Issue is Critical was to get that kill, drop the Rift Herald, and take down this turret. They are going to do it a couple seconds later, but at least First Blood Crusade have now rotated members to deal with this. It might not even get the entire turret, so yeah, because Robbie Bob took so long to take down, First Blood is able to keep their mid lane tier 1 alive while Tony Top is farming plates in the top side.
Yeah, it's limping though, right? This is not a tower that is long for this world. This mid tower has seen better days, so could see that be a possibility here as Narcy looking to stop this Vladimir. He gets him with the blind drooling, the most effective tool in your disposal, as we are going to see Tony Top use the Central Pool to get out of harm's way.
Goes the cavalry.
Find you looking for something here. Not going to be able to connect with a hook of his own. Depth charge available, but do not want to layer that CC on an Ornn under his tower. He will be able to get out for free.
They definitely had the damage to kill him, but without vision in the jungle and both Hyper and Command Attack missing on the map, they didn't want to try to commit to bursting down a super tanky Ornn before the rest of the team could join. You see Dragoon getting very aggressive. Oh my gosh.
Gonna connect onto Vigar. Robbie Bob is gonna find himself going on down. He tries to burst down Beach and almost get him. But now this Ornn is going a little bit aggressive. Is gonna get himself hit up by the passive. It's going to be Hayami finding out Meech. The Void Rush coming through. He's got the Chakrams, but it's Vladimir with the save. He hits one with the Proto Belt. A double kill for him as Tony Top makes an absolutely phenomenal play in the bot lane.
Almost making the miracle outplays. Fantastic pick onto Asta, but sticking around for too much on the backhand. Yami almost went down there to make it a 2 for 2, but at the end of the day, it's an advantage over to First Blood once again, despite getting a pick on one of the most crucial carries.
Yeah, and with the bot lane for the side of First Blood over here in the top lane, right? This tower is also another tower that is limping. Minions get to that tower does go down. I don't think anybody will argue that. They're also seeing a little bit of grouping towards the mid lane here, so we've got some very interesting options coming in here from both these teams.
Squads looking to just complete their first power spike items. You see kind of coming through across the board, the IE and the Nashor's Tooth for the Azir and Aphelios is going to be big. So now that those are under their pockets, Issue is Critical feels comfortable going up for this fight. They have most of their cooldowns available. They have the items.
Yeah,
they might find Robbie Bob.
Is going to find himself in a bad spot. Here comes the Call to Forge guy. They're using it on
no
one target.
to
They're looking to go ahead and take him on out. They will secure that, as that will be Hyper grabbing that. That's going to be Herald. That's going to be going over. That is a steal in favor of Hayami. He's going to be able to pick up the eye while a kill is picked up, as well as the Emperor's Divide is going to be used onto the other side. Command Stat's going to be finding himself getting taken on down. And it's just an exchange of lives over and over and over again. It's just an Ornn and Lee Sin left alive. Can they find a way to pick up and clean up this fight? No, they can't, as that will be 3 members of Issue is Critical going down for the price of 2.
Oh, it started off so well for them. We're actually going to look at a replay of this fight. So it starts, in the top side, Robbie Bob just gets picked off. This Ornn right now is way too much magic resist for this Vigar to do any damage. But then Kiami coming around onto the objective with the steal, it just seemed like all of Issue is Critical tunneled in on that Vigar pick, tried to rotate to kill him, forgot about the Herald, and forgot about the rest of First Blood Crusade because they looked completely caught off guard when Kiami and the rest of the squad rolled in to contest that Rift Herald.
Yeah, and they are going to be able to grab a Cloud Drake, though, here from the side of Issue is Critical. They're going to be able to get out of there very easily with Thresh and, Lee Sin things. I do want to highlight real quick the First Blood. I'm in love with the vision that they've been doing. They've actually been doing a fantastic job putting vision everywhere that Issue is Critical has been wanting to go. And they've had vision of every single motion they've made. That Herald fight was spotted out by a ward at one very, very early on in the rotation. And they have been really just staying on top of that.
Has been a big reason as to why they have won so many of these recent objective fights. When you have so much pick potential, things like the Vigar, the Varus, you want to really make sure that you can catch your opponents off guard. If that Vigar is spotted out, it becomes very difficult, even with the Glacial Augment, to set up these massive baby cages. Speaking of vision, though,
Hayami is getting caught. He's going to be able to catch out this Ornn. It's going to be the Call of the Forge God, and it hits nothing because these are 2 champions that can dodge anything you got to throw at him. But now it's basic. He's getting caught out. Hyper is taking a huge chunk of damage. The Glacial Augment's going to be there. You'll be rooted up, bursted down, and now it's just going to be Command Attack falling with his comrade. And they are going to find 2 kills, and Shelly Herald is down there in the bot lane, just eviscerating towers.
What a play by First Blood. They could potentially get the inhibitor here, but they are going to back off. They're going to find 2 more in the jungle.
Yeah, they're looking for more. King is going to be able to find a death sentence onto Tony Top. Tony Top's going to back it on up. They're going to look to pick their moment. It looks like King is still looking for possibly more for himself, as he is not going to be able to death sentence for himself. Now, Meech and King, they're going to have to rotate back into this mid lane, but there's going to be a Vigar around the corner. Event Horizon, Baby Rage, Cage, drop a meteor on him and call him dead for days. That is just going to be Robbie Bob picking himself another kill, 6, 4, and 3 currently on this Vigar.
Let's take a step back, because in the last 2 minutes, First Blood Crusade have gotten 4 kills, taken 3 towers, and an inhibitor tower being one of them. They just absolutely exploded, all starting off with that pick in the bottom lane onto Dragoon, who is just pushed up a bit too far, maybe not expecting how much damage Hayami was going to have. He has gone completely into magic resist, not a single point of armor from these items, and so very squishy to that Rek'Sai. After that, the Rift Herald charge, while in the top side, they were winning another fight. It was a 3v2, I believe, and it was still First Blood that was able to come out on top. So they're able to take the top lane turret. The Rift Herald charges in the bottom lane, and then after it all, they still find a pick onto Meech in the mid lane and get that turret as well. I mean, that was just kind of a shoddy couple minutes for Issue is Critical, falling into traps left and right, and they lost so much because of it. This is now a 6,000 gold lead for First Blood Crusade.
And 2 minutes ago, it was only a 2K lead. It just shows how much it exploded. They literally took double their gold and then put it inside of the already present gold lead. That is insane for them. And now Issues Critical is a team that's kind of sweating here because they've found themselves in the back foot. This Vigar has actually been quite the menace. And this Rek'Sai that's been constantly showing pressure around the map has been a never-ending threat.
Critical just need to try to slow the pace of the game. They know that they have the scaling and the 5v5 on their side, but they keep getting picked off in these corridors.
It's a catch right this. That is exactly what we've been talking about. Command Attack has to use the Hourglass. Is going to be able to flash out. Lantern is going to be used. Robbie Bob's over the wall trying to lay out some more damage. Redemption's going to be used. Get a little bit of HP back on up from the Call of the Forge guy. Only going to be able to connect onto the Vigar. And it is not going to be anybody going down there. A flash was used by Command Attack, and now First Blood might be looking at this Baron a little bit favorably.
Yeah, no kills coming through, but they did walk away with superior health bars. So they're going to start this one up. I don't know if they can burst it down before the rest of Issue is Critical rejoins.
They got double flat. The double
have the
smite
damage.
is up too for the other side. Issue is Critical
they get
not
out?
able to find their way in there. Now it's time for them to get on out of there. King's going to be able to find a death sentence onto the Vladimir. Moonlight Vengeance is going to be able to hit onto the bat side. Hayami is on a rampage on this thresh. Over on the bat side, you see Robbie Bob able to lay out that event horizon, keeping the teams stunned off of each other. Tony is going to be re-engaging this as they look to turn the tide. Robbie Bob is going to be on a killing spree. They get a stun. They're bursting them down. They are taking them down one by one, and it's only Meech alive.
They do it again. They get the objective. They get the fight afterwards. First Blood is just on a war path right now. They burst down the Baron before Issue is Critical can respond, and the fight after looked really good for Issue. Meech was completely untouched in the back of that fight with the Calibrum plus the Equilibrium, I believe. The blue and the white gun, the sniper and the chakra. We're not going to try to use the actual names, but with that combo, he was able to dish out so much damage from long range, and it actually looked like First Blood was on the retreat until Tony Top comes in like a speeding bullet, lands a 4-man ultimate with his freshly completed
he came
death
in
gap.
so
Let's
fiercely.
look at a
That
replay of this
Hemoplague
one because it was
actually just
such a big
disgusting
turnaround.
coming out from him, being able to lay out so much damage, really be able
So
to
you
put out
can
that
see
AoE
here, Meech is just sitting over the wall and stacking up the chakrams with that ultimate means he is doing ridiculous damage with every auto attack. He does a really good job at landing these sniper shots, but then Tony just turns it around, dives in, and kills everybody. Now we have another fight.
Yeah, another fight coming on in. I will find you looking to go ahead and jump onto him. King is going to find his HP bar chunked down so very hard. The Emperor Survive's going to be able to go, but it's only onto the Varus as the Rampage comes on out. The Vladimir is away and just destroying everything in the backside as the Azir is held back and not able to get anything for their team. Now it is just Basic Blonde. He's going to go in there, stop the TP to come out from Tony Top, and that is going to be good for them, but it is looking like they are just backing it on out. A surrender actually coming out from Issue is Critical, and that is going to be the game.
First Blood Crusade forcing the surrender out of their opponents. To be fair, the game was completely over, even though the teleport was interrupted. I mean, that fight between the Vladimir and Lee Sin, they were just wasting time. Complete dominance that I'm not sure I expected that level of performance out of First Blood. I knew that they would be strong coming in here as possibly the favorites to win, but it seemed like once we hit that 15-20 minute mark, a switch turned on from First Blood and they just got everything.
Yeah, I feel like you were talking about, a switch got turned on immediately, and Issue is Critical. They just struggled to find their footing. Like, they had this moment where it looked to like they were playing their own game, right? We saw that early fight in the bot side over towards the Dragon Pit. Looked very much so issue is critical favored, and then it's just like they lost control of exactly what they wanted to do.
And you saw kind of these shining moments of the composition issues critical put together where they were able to find these enclosed spaces where the Aphelios or the Azir were able to just free hit, but it always came down to the re-engage from for First Blood Crusade was so clean. It was in big part because of the vision that they controlled throughout the game. I heard you mention it multiple times, but the map was so dark for issue is critical. There was never a feeling of safety for the carries on their team to actually get damage across because everywhere they looked, there were dark corners where a Vladimir or a Rek'Sai were popping out just ready to ruin their day. So although I initially thought the issue is critical had a superior comp, First Blood Crusade did a fantastic job at disrupting their enemy's win condition.
Yeah, and you actually see that through just like the vision control that came out from the bot lane in general. I think that's a big thing that we saw from First Blood. That was a huge moment. Even though Meech still put out a surprising amount of damage, if you look at the bot lanes you compared the vision score of the AD carry and support from both sides. On one side, over on issues critical, you had a vision score of 54 coming out your bot lane. When you look over on the other side from First Blood, you actually saw a vision score of, I believe it was 88. That's a huge difference in vision, and also the fact that they had a vision in such important areas. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what is going to be the adaptation to come out from issue is critical. Because I do think that they showed why they are here in finals and why they are a strong team, but they kind of lost their footing, and First Blood pulled the rug out from underneath them in game one.
Yeah, I want to talk about the adaptations because going into game number 2, I want to see issue is critical go a little bit harder in the early game. You have all UPL players in every single role. You obviously have a roster that's full of superstars that know their good matchups, but they go for this super late game composition and where they're relying on this Ornn to buff up a late game Azir and a late game Aphelios, and their only kind of early game power is arguably hyper on Lee Sin, but there was no support for him. So if they were to draft a bit more aggressive and give their laners some more agency, I think they have some incredible talent here that can really shine in the first 15 minutes. We saw, some great individual plays from this squad, but it was that mid game where they didn't have their late game power spikes where they just fell apart.
Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and take ourselves a short little break. That way we can let these teams, take a moment, breathe, get a drink, and be able to adapt for what could be a nasty game two. So ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere as we will be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on back to Upsurge. We are in the finals of UPL currently. We just got done seeing game one of our First Blood was able to draw First Blood as they picked up game number one. My name's Travis C. I'm here with Audio and Audio. How are you feeling as we're looking to go into game two after what was, I think, a fairly convincing win from First Blood?
Yeah, I would say that they went from a 2,000 gold lead to a 6,000 and never really dipped below that point in, I would say, what, about 2 minutes?
Yes.
That was a crazy showing from First Blood. They had an absolutely explosive mid game. Whether it was actual nerves, shot call issues, whether it was just the draft, is the question here for Issue is Critical. What was their critical issue that they have to fix going into this game number two? Because with the stars that you have on this roster, everybody's expecting at least the game four, hopefully a game five, when you have, some of the best players stats wise on First Blood Crusade going up against, some of the best players in their roles, getting all UPL players on Issue is Critical. If this is a 3-0 sweep, I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed. I think they're going to have a lot of questions around the actual players on Issue is Critical.
Yeah, I think you hit a couple nails when you were talking about that. A lot of people might look at the draft. A lot of people might look at some of the indecisiveness and how spread apart those team fights were. But hey, we're going into draft, so we're going to go ahead and see some of these answers be, some of these questions be answered as we are seeing these bands flying on through. And Vladimir being an adaptation coming out from Issue is Critical.
Yeah, I think that's a smart move. If they ever want to go back to the Ornn, you have to ban out that Vlad, because we saw that Dragoon was not able to do really anything against Tony Top. Hard as he tried to get those solo kills, Ornn just didn't have the damage, and you can't give a late game scaler like Vlad a free lane, or we all saw what happened.
Yeah, we've all felt that pain, and a Rek'Sai adaptation to come out, as well as no Rek'Sai for Hayami, as First Blood keep their first round bans all completely the same. Now we'll see what their pick is. Do they put the same priority on Ornn that Issue is Critical normally do, or do they forego that pick to go for something a little bit different?
We'll see what actually happens here. They're gonna instead look towards the bottom lane. They want to continue with this Varus pick for them. Asta had a phenomenal game on it in game number one, and knowing that the Ornn is probably going to go over, they're still not too worried about it. This time, though, it's going to be paired with the Syndra.
I love that early grab of Syndra. Syndra's such a strong champion in its current moment. And there is the Trundle. We actually saw that getting covered in the last game. And an Echo as an immediate response to the Syndra.
Well, that's what happens when you show your cards that early. Issue is Critical grabbing a high tier mid laner for themselves. But Command Attack says, okay, I'm just going to grab the free counter pick. And they get two counters actually in that rotation, the Trundle to cut down on Ornn, and the Echo to survive that burst from Syndra.
I'm going to be curious to see what Issue is Critical going to go back to. The Thresh, possibly? No, they switch it to a Nautilus right at the last moment. I really like this adaptation. Gives them a little bit more follow-up to go alongside that Ornn. And now we're going into ban phase 2, and I'll be curious to see what roles are possibly going to be pinched, especially with some of these solo lanes already being picked up.
I definitely expect most likely the ADC for target bans on First Blood Crusade side. They might also, they already see the top laner, so jungle bans could be another location for them. You can see taking away Hyper's Lee Sin, even though it had didn't have a stellar performance in game one, he still did start off with that 3 camp.
Yeah, he was actually looking pretty strong in the early game. It all turned around with that unfortunate bot dive for Issue is Critical that really picked it on up, and you're seeing the focus still continue with the Graves ban as well. Issue is Critical now have the option to pick up what they would like to lock in for themselves. They have an AD carry and a jungler still left for them to pick up.
I just saw this in the chat, and there is a possibility that Issue is Critical sends that Syndra to the bot lane. It is still a good pair with the Nautilus. Once you hit level 6, you have incredible all-in burst potential. They are going to grab an aggressive jungler for themselves. So this is already 2 big carries on Issue is Critical's squad. We'll see what First Blood fire back with here. They will be rounding out their composition, so all cards on the table. Last pick is going to be saved for the ADC slash potentially silver mini mid laner for
Yep.
issues.
Still potential, that is for sure. Syndra is a very, very powerful bot laner to have. A Thresh locked in from the other side, so we're seeing the two Hood champions, you know, having 100% participation inside this draft. As First Blood said, you can take the Nautilus, we'll take the Thresh. As now it's left to them for what they want to pick up last.
And looks like it's going to be the Silas, so a bit of a flex pick of their own. Can go to the top or mid lane. Will most likely be a Silas top against Ornn. It's going to be Tony top taking that one, and looks like Elise being hovered for issue. I don't think this is a ADC or mid lane Elise, so probably just a troll hover.
Quite possibly, and there it is. There's the Kha'Zix. I was about to say it's going to be a very interesting thing, but this does also turn around and tell you, hey, guess what? This is a Kindred that is getting played, and this is going to be an exciting time to see as Issues Critical has brought the spicy draft today.
Welcome to the meat show. He wants to take down Asa as one of the top ADCs in the league, and this is the game to do it. Pulls out the Kindred in game number 2. Let's talk about that pick a little bit before we get into the rest of the draft. Kindred is a champion that's very reliant on her marks, and especially when you are playing her in a bot lane and you are going to be in that lane for a good amount of the early game, you hope desperately that the mark spawns in the bottom scuttle. It is a 50-50 chance for that first mark to go to the top or bottom scuttle. If it goes to the top one, you're screwed out of your first mark, and you really have to get to 4 of them before your team fight becomes effective. So that's going to be a big struggle here for Meech, is actually getting those souls. The other option would be to put her mid and still flex the Syndra down to the bot lane. You get a bit more access to the souls and being able to mark people roam around. So that does work better from a souls perspective. We'll see where they decide to go. The Silas will be in the top lane as we predicted for Tony top. Now it is up to Issues.
I'm really excited to see this. I mean, if we were going to see a Kindred mid come out of a team, what team would it be besides Issue is Critical? It's a team that is just always flipping the meta on its head and looking for different ways to be able to play it. And I really do think that this is going to be very interesting with the amount of beef they have, actually. The Ornn, Nautilus, combined together with Syndra and Kha'Zix for the burst, and you got consistent DPS from a Kindred. This could be very interesting. While on the other side, First Blood, they're not a team to be slept on with some of the ways they have to control the fights.
With the Syndra locked into the mid lane for command attack, we will be seeing Meech running the Marksman Kindred. Having the Nautilus to pair with that means that if you can get some cheeky hooks, as the lobby got reset there, client crashed, so hopefully we'll be getting that started back up very quickly. But if you can get some picks onto that immobile Varus, Kindred definitely does have the damage to close out that 2v2 duel, and that's another way to grab those marks. If you can mark the Varus or the Nautilus and then win the fight against them, you can get some cheeky early kills. It does require you to be quite aggressive though, and Thresh plus Varus is a pretty safe.
Yeah, I 100% agree. We were talking about this earlier in last game, how Thresh provides an extra layer of safety. And it will be a very fun thing to be able to see as we'll get back into getting all the bans and stuff like that as all players. I think they've got their flying issues fixed and ready to go. I am very interested because if you're like to theory craft something, which I love theory crafting, where certain champions may be reliable. I love the idea of a Kindred AD carry when you have this amount of space created around you. Because traditionally, right, you were talking about the marks for Kindred. You take a while to get online when you're in the bot lane. However, when you got this amount of space bot around you, it could allow you to be opened up for opportunities.
Yeah, definitely Kindred, once she gets going, can be a pretty dangerous force. She's very mobile, so she'll be able to hopefully avoid a lot of those thresh hooks, a lot of the engages coming through. At the point of engage, when you look at First Blood Crusade, they don't have as much as last time around. Their kind of whole engage is we're going to run at you and maybe thresh hook.
Yeah.
But once they land that Thresh-hook, you don't have the Vigar cage, you don't have the Rek'Sai point and click knock up. So it can be harder to start off those fights where, that is where Issues Critical actually has the advantage. But what First Blood Crusade do have to their advantage is just their skirmishing power. They have tons of sustain through Silas and Trundle heals. Echo can reset the fight. Varus has a lot of zone control. If they can get in these 2v2, 3v3 skirmishes, First Blood Crusade really does shine in their composition. That's how they played the last one.
Yeah.
They didn't give Issues the full 5-on-5 team fight. They picked them off on the side lanes. They played their 1-3-1. They pushed everything at once.
And they got effective dives with an Echo. That champion is nutty when it comes down to being able to dive a champion on the tower. But with us going back in the champ select and seeing where some of the people are actually locking in their champions, we're actually seeing Command Attack grab the Kindred and Meech grabbing the Syndra this time around. So
that makes much more sense.
Looks like they're flipping it on around. And I'm just excited to see a Kindred in the mid lane because in theory, right, this should be a champion that if you're able to open up the Kindred and move it on around, it could still be a Kha'Zix in the mid lane. We don't even know that. I don't think it's going to be, but
yeah, I feel like they're going to swap back. They're just
they're going to keep
little
trolling at this point. But there's a lot of theory crafting, and there's a lot of unique possibilities that could possibly come out, and it could be a very devastating team actually if this team from Issues Critical start falling behind.
Stop playing with my emotions here.
They're getting you hopeful. You're like back to season 4, Kha'Zix mid.
We'll see what actually happens. I expect it to be the Kindred in the mid lane. I think it's a much better choice for them. Not only do you get more access to the marks, but also you deny the counter pick of the Echo against the Syndra, kind of having Robbie Bob on this free counter where actually Kindred is working against the Echo here. You can't die in her ultimate, and Echo is all about that upfront burst. So this is a very smart draft adaptation. I like this draft loads better than the Game 1 version. And I think we'll actually get to see the star players in this roster be able to flex their muscles a little bit and hopefully not get rolled over in the mid game because they're so focused on
it is still something to kind of have a little bit of a concern about, right? You look over at First Blood, they have a team where they're able to rotate around. And what did they get their advantages around? You said it earlier, skirmishing. And guess what? This is a team composition that they can dive very, very effectively. And I think you do have to still have that in the back of your mind if your issue is critical. First Blood, they set themselves up for being able to have all those advantages, and it exploded a gold lead from 2K to 6K in the blink of an eye. So issue is critical is going to be definitely keeping their eyes out.
Absolutely. And they're going to be looking to do as much of that diving as they can, but I think Issues have a lot more tools this time to defend against those dives. You look at the top lane, it's no longer a Rek'Sai in the jungle. Hyami is on the Trundle, which means, yes, there is some physical damage, but a majority of the top lane is doing magic damage, the top half of the map. So the Ornn is going to be able to itemize pretty heavily into magic resist. They have a lot more disengage across the rest of the map too, so we'll see if they can weather that storm a little bit. Hopefully not fall down in gold so drastically as Game 1.
Well, you were just talking about the Troll King, but ladies and gentlemen, I would never troll you when it comes down to talking to you about one of our lovely sponsors. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about Kono. They are the finest of keyboards that you'll be able to find out there. Make sure you check them out because they have the finest keyboards to make sure that you'll be able to make the finest of plays with the finest of style with a keyboard that's made just for you. Be sure to check them out. They are a lovely sponsor here of Upsurge. They have been great at supporting the UPL, and they are absolutely fabulous. So be sure to check them out at kono.store. That's KONO.store for you to be able to check out the keyboard that was made just for you. Go ahead. Get yourself set. It's love at first sight when you see the keyboard out there that you just want to be able to grab and be able to just have a phenomenal time with. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break. As we get ready for Game 2, you buy yourself a keyboard for Kono.store. We will be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going into game 2 here of the UPL Finals with First Blood sitting currently 1 game up against the opposition here of Issue is Critical on the red side. I'm Travis. I'm joined here with Audio. And Audio?
Yeah.
We're seeing yet again another 3-stack coming out here.
An interesting start to an interesting game. This is exactly how Issue Command got their advantage in game number 1. They pushed in as a 3-man onto Hiyami. And actually, they got Hyper a 3-buff start. They weren't able to make use of it, though. And this time, First Blood is a bit wary of it. They've put that ward in the river to make sure this top side cannot get aggressive.
Yeah, they're being extra safe, which is fine. You know, that we were talking about adaptations after game 1, and that's definitely a sign of an adaptation coming out here of them saying, we don't want you to get a 3-buff advantage on a Kha'Zix of all things. That is a scary sight in of itself, and will be something to keep our eyes peeled for, as both these junglers look like they're starting on their respective red buffs.
Yep, and both junglers will be starting, like you said, on the opposite sides. We saw a Conqueror Kha'Zix as well, so will inhibit his burst potential, but will allow him a bit more dueling possibilities. We talked about the skirmish-heavy composition of First Blood, how they want to take those extended trades because of all the healing. That Conqueror is going to help out with that, with the Kha'Zix. We'll see if he decides to get aggressive. Command Attack is doing so here in the mid lane, making full use of his range advantage.
I was about to say, when you're an Echo playing against a range matchup, it can feel bad, especially at the very beginning, especially when it's somebody as mobile and aggressive as this Kindred in the hands of Command Attack. He also has Exhaust as his summoner yet again here, so kind of in keeping Robbie Bob in check in case he does go super aggressive.
is the risk for the Kindred getting all in, especially before level 6 or anytime your ultimate is down, because you're incredibly squishy, and until you get those marks, very short range as well. So using that to buy a lot of safety and allowing command attack to play aggressive without being punished so easily.
I'm also going to be excited to see what kind of build this Kindred mid is going to go for. Just because of the fact that, you know, you have your standard jungle build. However, when you play it in a solo lane, it's got to be a completely different way, or it could be very, very similar. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes out on the build path and the bat timers, especially here in the mid lane.
So far, we do see some nice CS leads for Tony Top in the top side, but kind of being equalized right now by command attack. Skirmishing as much as he can, Proxat Conqueror does chunk out the Ornn. Both of them running corruption potions, so we still have quite a bit of sustain left to see.
Yep. Yeah, Ornn actually just chugged his last bit of corruption potion, so it's running on the emptier side of things. But it's okay, they got biscuits for themselves.
Freshly baked biscuits across the board for First Blood Crusade. Went to the bakery before the match.
You know what? I'm a fan. If you're going to get snacks, why not get some Poro snacks? It's part of a healthy and nutritious balanced diet, as I've heard. And it's taking a good bit of damage back. He trades it on back with Robbie Bob in the mid lane.
Yeah, not a lot of jungler intervention so far. Both junglers 24 CS are almost completely mirroring each other's first clears.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't been able to get into these lanes thus far. Not a lot of gank opportunities for the Trundle, but Kha'Zix, if he can find those isolated matchups. You see Trundle behind the Ornn right now. A big wave did crash, but they don't really have a lot of ways to drop aggro. Yummy might look for something.
Yeah, forces a flash immediately, not trying to mess with any of that right outside of tower range. So they will back it on up. Beautiful use of the pillar.
Yep, and that's really all he needs to do. That lane is already starting to go pretty heavily in the way of Tony Top, making sure that he can walk in, blow the flash, and then also crash that wave, give Tony a really good reset to go spend his gold. Shouldn't even have to burn the teleport to get back to lane. And they will keep their advantage in the top side. Meanwhile, bottom lane's also pushing in, and we have a dragon spawning here. Just a few seconds. Cloud Drake will be the first one.
Yeah, and that's going to be a good one to be able to grab, especially if your issue is critical. Getting that little bit of extra ult CDR on something like the Kindred and the Ornn are going to be phenomenal for them if they're able to secure that early bit. But we did see from First Blood, they did have that early control over this bottom side. Good vision coming out, though, from Issue is Critical starting off this game.
Yeah, absolutely is. And it's going to be a 300 gold lead so far for First Blood. But, I mean, this is much better already than game number 1, where it was a bit explosive. We had already seen a couple kills by this point, and the gold lead was starting to go into First Blood's favor.
Yeah, and looking at everything now, we are seeing the Trundles down here towards the bottom side. Kaz is also following his camps down here towards the bottom side. You do see Vision is on the Drake, so they do have that little bit of advantage, and we're actually seeing some recall timers in the bot lane pushed in, so they could possibly sneak this one on through.
They do have the damage with the Varus. That is one disadvantage to the Syndra, because you don't have as much objective taking power, and yeah, this one's going to go down without a fight, not even going to know it's going on. It will be First Blood picking up that first.
Yeah, and that was all based off of the wave being pushed in and Nautilus having to back. Even if they saw it, it would have been dangerous to commit to it with all these waves shoved in. Mid lane also was shoved in at that point in time, so very, very scary. And you can see, actually, feels bad to be Kindred in the mid lane right now, because look at what Silas is doing. Just taking that scuttle so it doesn't even get a chance to go over to command attack.
Yeah, that is really unfortunate. Command attack does have one mark, so he's been able to cash in on something so far. But like we said, you really want to be hitting at least 4 for those, important mid-game team fights. Not on a great track record right now. He is going to be pretty difficult to traverse these team fights with the very short range, going up against the quick engage tools with Sylas and Echo.
Yeah, he was able to get the first bot scuttle. His jungler happily donated that to him. Said, "Here's the stat, buddy." I was able to secure that for him. So I was able to get that first one here. Over in the top lane, we're not having a great time inside of this matchup as Command Attack looking to turn this aggression back on Robbie. Oh my god, that damage.
This is the part where it starts to get scary for Echo. You can no longer burst out the Kindred Hunter to 0 because of the ultimate. So you kind of go in, do what damage you can, which at this point, sitting on just an amp tone is not much. And then you have to slowly walk away while Kindred auto-attacks you in the back.
Basic is getting caught out by Hayami. Hayami laying out a good amount of damage. He's trying to do what he can, but he will find himself in a dangerous situation. Lancer's Bite has been used. Call the Forge God going to be used onto the backside. Going to be able to get a 4-man knockup, but it's going to be the Forge God being called back from the other side. Tony Top, he yoinks the ult, picks up one, looking for another one onto this Ornn, and they will be able to find him a kill for Hayami.
Quick 2-0 here from First Blood. They catch out the jungler walking through with no vision, trying to potentially secure another one of those marks for Kindred, but with that scuttle being marked, you know that First Blood is going to be watching that jungle so closely. And when a Kha'Zix walks in completely alone, yes, he has the Conqueror, but this is a post-6 Trundle. It's so hard to burst him out. He is going to win that fight in the long run. Cherry on top was the rest of the team roamed first. They get 2 quick kills, a Herald, and they're going to immediately drop that top lane, try to cash in on some of these plates.
Yeah, and, they completely rotated around. This bot lane isn't able to grab any of the plates just yet, and you see over in the top lane, it's just Shelly up here yet again, and this is going to be a first brick going down in favor of First Blood indefinitely.
Once again, we see right around this 10-minute mark, right when these first objectives start to spawn, First Blood are exploding onto the map. They get multiple kills, they get an objective, and all that's really traded back here is now 2 turret plates for the Syndra and Nautilus shared between them, compared to the 2 turrets that are going to go down on the top side. I actually can't believe that Issues are completely just choosing not to engage.
The Syndra is getting jumped onto, and it will be a trade 1-for-1 there, but the Sylas making the best out of it as they had to dedicate 3 people to stop him, and now a TP coming in is going to force them off from getting anything else. The Echoes here in the area. Kha'Zix, this is not a duel you want, as it is going to be slowly but surely Robbie Bob going to pick up the kill. He curves the hook, and he's looking for another one. King, you better run. Robbie Bob is looking for some fun. He goes ahead, shifts to back time, and is going to be able to find himself yet another kill. Robbie Bob playing that fantastically.
That was stylish from the Echo. Even a little bit of PM there at the end, as he didn't auto-attack the Kha'Zix quite as much as he could have. Was like, yeah, you can try to jump away. I'm just going to chase you down. A good dodge on the hook. Otherwise, Hyper might have actually escaped that one. But it's a double kill for the Echo. Right as I thought that Issues was going to get something back for themselves. Tony Top going in while his team was making a play on the top side of the map. He gets turned around, is eventually a 1-for-1 trade, but then when Robbie Bob teleports in and just cleans up, it's once again everything coming up positive for First Blood.
Yeah, Tony Top, absolutely the star that started off that play by starting off that 1v1 that turned into a 1v3 where he still found himself with a kill. Was phenomenal from his part, and right now he's showing that he's definitely something to be feared with the Sylas in the side lane. You can't leave him alone for just about anything.
Definitely can't. And Command Attack right now can't survive in the side lane either. Still only, I believe, on the 1 singular stack. 11 minutes into the game. This is kind of desperation point for the Kindred. She is going to be coming in here with very little damage, even going for the Manamune. I don't exactly agree with this one either, because it's going to delay that damage spike even longer. Maybe if you were already a couple stacks in, like hitting 4th stack around this time, I could justify that, but not right now. You look at the other side of the matchup, and you have an Echo with a Magi Soul Stealer.
Yes. I was about to say 2 different tales. On one hand, you've got a build that I have seen people make content around. I have seen people be like, this build is actually OP once you get going with it on the Kindred. But on the other side, you get something that's really terrifying, a Soul Stealer, something that everybody has had to feel inside of their solo queue adventures when there is a Echo that is just getting so freaking strong and is making stylish plays in the side lanes.
I don't know that there's anything that Issues can do to survive this push right now. They're looking
going
for a
over,
pick.
King, looking for something. They're going to immediately answer this bat. I will find you, taking a lot of damage, but the aftershot's enough to keep him alive, and he goes on down. The depth charge is going to be used. Hyper is going to find himself in a terrible spot as Command Attack now rejoins the fray. He's going to be able to find a little bit of damage, but Tony Top was able to flash out. Hayami now over here ready to join the fray, and they don't have the numbers advantage. Echo's actually down here in the bot lane, just pushing away on towers for free.
Yeah, they found a really good look. It was Ugandan that was able to find a Hex Flash over the wall, but they don't have the damage to finish it up. I Will Find You has time to actually pop that stone plate, survive through the burst, and it was an easy turnaround for First Blood. They get another kill. They're able to come down here, pick up the final remaining, the second outer turret for themselves. That is 2 full turrets worth of plate money, as it is still pre-14 minutes. And now they are, again, almost 6,000 gold ahead pre-15.
Yeah, pre-14 minutes, you talked about 2 towers with full plates being taken out, 1 plate being taken in the mid lane. They also got an inner tower over in the top lane. We cannot forget that, as that is a huge thing. That's why this gold lead is so much in favor of this team, and we're seeing this vision yet again. First Blood, look at the control wards that they have scattered all around and how they have some of this invasive vision. This is absolutely beautiful, and why they're able to do these plays so aggressively the way that they want to do.
Yeah, this is 2 games in a row now where we've looked at the composition from Issue is Critical, and they have some scaling, but they also have some early game tools that they're not really utilizing. We've seen an aggressive look from Hyper on the Lee Sin and now the Kha'Zix, where he hasn't really ganked much. He's not making good use of the gank assist with the Thresh or the Echo. It's been kind of lackluster.
Yeah, and oh wait, the cleanse has been used, but it is going to be Meech going on down here for the tower. Command Attack looking to chase down Tony. But while this is all happening, mid lane is crumbling down. There's nobody here besides the Nautilus. This is huge, as they're just going to take themselves another tower. Tony Top
want to trade something.
They're looking for something. Tony Top is like, fine, I'll keep you guys here. I don't care. He's got the Void Assault now. He's going to be able to keep himself invisible for a time, but the wolf smells fresh blood. Command Attack will find that almost at the cost of his life, but
are they trading back? They are losing multiple turrets and a Rift Herald. This is becoming a very worrying trend for Issues is Critical. They aren't able to trade these objectives back while their opponents, and Robbie Bob, he's once again going to clean this up.
Yeah, he's just going to be able to find them the Lancer spike. It has to end sooner or later. The exhaust has to end sooner or later. And Robbie's, he's not ending anytime sooner or later right now, at least, because he is 4-0-1 with 13 stacks on his Soul Stealer.
Top is showing why he is one of the biggest names in top lane right now. Every time his team goes for one of these big plays somewhere on the map, the immediate knee-jerk response from Issues is to make a play on the other side of the map. But Tony has been so damn difficult to take down, often requiring 2 to 3 members to commit over 30 seconds to finally finish him off, that it's allowing his team to get a ridiculous amount of gold in the trade. And every time it's happened, even though they finally take down the Silas, it's Robbie Bob coming in and getting more kills on the backhand, which gives even more objectives to First Blood. I have been completely blown away with their play thus far, and it's starting to look like this might be a pretty one-sided matchup.
Yeah, you can't count them out until the Nexus explodes, of course, but yet again, we are seeing it at about a 6K lead, and another Drake to be claimed by First Blood, as they're grabbing yet again. Basic just getting grabbed upon. They're not going to be able to get him, as they do split their attention between the Command Attack, but now Robbie Bob's going a little bit hard for him. Wants to get the kill. He's going to have to rewind time and say, nope, not dropping any deaths here just yet today. Hayami dropping Herald now in the bot lane. This is going to be a tower in the bot side. Ornn isn't in the area. They have to get this up.
Yeah, he's going to go back to base to possibly teleport in or just walk to this fight. Even though they're not able to find the kill, First Blood are able to find one turret so far. Still 5 people strong. Will they be able to break the base once again?
Yeah,
No,
they are able to. They're going to back up. They were putting with a little bit of respect. They said, all right, all 5 of them are together this time. Let's not push it. They do have some strength as a 5v5 chord, and that was something that you and me were talking about earlier on in the game. So not making any silly mistakes to throw gold back to the other team.
Breathing a sigh of relief right now. That was one of the first times this series where they've been able to resist the engage from First Blood, not lose any members or blow any key cooldowns, and that's what's allowed them to keep their inhibitor turret standing. If any of them had dropped there, that was almost certainly an inhibitor or potentially worse for issues. But thankfully they're able to weather that storm. They're going to need a lot more of it, as this Kindred still going to be taking a long time to ramp up. Command attack still on 1 mark. 18 minutes into the game is pretty disastrous. This Kindred pick is not working out.
Not at all. Not able to have the desired effect, I would think. Hasn't really been able to get the marks, as we were talking about. And that is a scary situation to be.
Oh, he actually gets to walk away from this one. Will he? Oh, he's gonna cancel it. He wants it.
He wants the Varus. He wants him. Tony Top's over here in the top lane. They're going for the Call of the Forge God, looking to get a kill onto him. And yet again, this time, nothing to be answered. He's looking for it, and there you go. Varus taking a lot of damage, but he's going to immediately answer back with an ultimate of his own, and now command attack. Greed equals speed, man. And he definitely felt the feed on that one.
Once again, I mean, it's a great idea. You want to try to catch out this Varus when he's, recalling, hoping nobody's near him. But no vision of 2 other members on the map. They did happen to be close by. And your team is making a play in the top side. So it feels like the Issue squad is starting to get a bit desperate and pulling off these miracle plays where their carries are trying to 1v9. It's not working for them, though. I mean, First Blood, they're not giving him an inch.
It's almost like he knew he was there at that point in time. And look at this. They immediately say, all right, yeah, you got our top outer. We're going to take your inhibitor down in the bot lane. Well, your inhibitor tower in the bot lane. I hope you don't mind. Push that on in. And that is a huge hole inside of the base that could possibly be grabbed at any time.
Actually not grabbing the minions. Are they allowing it to kill the inhibitor? I'm not sure. Or is just sitting by the wave and not picking up the farm on purpose.
Yeah, they are actually letting the inhibitor go down to minions, it does look like. And that is a strategy to have. Some teams do not want to get inhibitors super early because of the fact that it naturally shoves in the wave and it kind of messes up with
the problem with it, though, although you're going to create a lane where you can get a lot of farm, the Baron just spawned and your opponents are 8,000 gold ahead. They now have super minions pushing in to the lane farthest from the Baron. I mean, I can understand that they want to catch up, but I think that Issues have just put themselves in a very precarious situation. First Blood can sit in this top side, take away all the jungle, and constantly threaten the Baron.
Yeah, I feel like this is definitely them saying, we're giving up the Baron at this point in time, because that doesn't seem like it's a condition that they want to have. And look at this, they are hunting.
I don't think anybody told Hyper.
They're going to be able to find him. Half damage done to him off of that. And he has to back it on up yet again.
Yeah, if they're going to give up that Baron, the jungler needs to do that as well. Forcing a massive chunk of health bar out of Hyper means that First Blood now have nothing stopping them from walking up and just starting this one. They have the sustain with the Trundle and the Varus. Everyone else is going to run just guard duty on the Baron, make sure Hyper cannot get in for a steal.
Yeah, they're looking for something possible here. King's over here on to the side, taking a lot of damage from Tony Top. And you see Hyper, he's unable to get in. He's still so very low.
Oh, they don't
He's
see him.
Looking for it.
No
Can't
way.
find it. He smites early and isn't going to find it. A depth charge that would seal his fate, as Echo will take out the Nihilus over in the top lane. Kindred command attack is actually just doing Drake by himself, making sure they don't get a mountain point. But this is definitely going to be another inhibitor to go down and could possibly be a game.
I don't even really understand what they were trying to do there after giving up the inhibitor and clearly, showing that their top laner with TP wants to stay in this bottom lane and pick up this farm. They're still trying to contest the Baron, looking for a miracle steal. It feels like Issue is Critical. It's kind of just said, all right, bring on game 3. We'll look for the reverse sweep because this game number 2, I mean, it's over.
Yeah, and look at this. Another Destinus is going to be able to connect, and there goes Nautilus' HP bar as quick as you can believe it. Command attack uses Land for Spite, keeps himself alive for a little bit longer, but he's getting thrown around inside his own pit, and Robbie is going to be able to find himself 1. Can he find himself 2? He will. He rewinds time, lays out some more damage onto the Kha'Zits, and they have to fight from their own fountain as First Blood Crusade. They're at 2-0 up on this series and are looking so freaking good.
Wow. 2 games of complete domination, that one ending in 23 minutes. 1 Baron necessary. Mark of a truly great team when you can not only win the game, but once you have a lead, you can finish it out very cleanly. And that's all that First Blood has shown from us so far this series is complete, clean gameplay. And I want to make an apology to Robbie Bob. Before the series started, I said that with the stars on this team, he seemed like the most lackluster name on the list. He's certainly proving me wrong here with an 8-0-1 performance on the Echo, topping out that Magi's following his great performance in game number 1 as well. Truly, so far, has been a standout performer for this squad, always cleaning up these fights that they're losing while the rest of his team making plays in the rest of the map. And my goodness, the damage that this man did. 12,000 in 23 minutes.
It's disgusting. And honestly, I feel like the champions and the way they played stylistically matched against some of the discourse that we possibly saw inside of Issue is Critical, right? Like this, that they had a very critical issue where it seemed like they had different ideas. They did conflicting things, and Echo and Silas, I'm going to be honest with you, are 2 champions that are really good at handling chaos, especially when you don't know what kind of chaos you're expecting. So, honestly, hands down, you got to look at these 2 champions and these picks and the way Issue is Critical has been playing. And it's been just really everything that's been going on has been playing into the strengths of whatever composition that First Blood has been picking.
Yeah, it feels to me like Issue are trying to pull off these creative compositions, these new picks to surprise their opponents, but it's just not matching the level of comfort and the level of experience and level-headedness that First Blood is bringing to the table. The Kindred was a complete flop. Finishing the game off with a single mark is almost kind of embarrassing, especially coming from Command Attack, who was just named our MVP. I really hope that they can kind of pull their draft back together in game number 3. I want them to just go back to a very standard, get some early power, get some things that can fight. Don't grab these picks that are requiring 3 items or multiple scaling conditions in order for your composition to come online, because they are really just shooting themselves in the foot for the first 20 minutes and not being able to match up composition-wise to their opponents. And First Blood have shown that if you give them a free early game, they will not allow the game to go late.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to go ahead and take ourselves a short little bit of a break, as we're going to be coming back where Issue is Critical. They're going to be looking to turn things around and hopefully start their reverse sweep, because First Blood, they're on match point here in the UPL finals. So be sure not to touch your browsers. We'll be right back.
Ain't no love like a real love, but it goes so fast. All tied up like a captive. I'm on to you. Used to pay to my life, sending no rainbows, playing it cool. Find your way into this wonderland. Cross the maze, the dark, the innocent. Chase the fate, the thrill, the heaven sent. I got your world upside down. The labyrinth will guide you far away to a place where senses will decay. Your ghost and mind will shadow play. I got your world upside down. Upside down.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome on back to the UPL Finals. We are going into Game 3, and it is match point for First Blood Crusade as Issue is Critical. They're going to be looking to mount their reverse sweep here. Audio, lay it on me. What is the Issue is Critical going to have to look to solve and make into their way of winning this series and start getting themselves some games back into the series and start the reverse sweep?
It's not looking great. Those first two games were pretty dominant by First Blood. A lot of people expected a pretty hard-fought battle between these two squads, as there's a lot of really star names on either roster, but it has just been First Blood all the way. They look to continue their dominance that they showed the first time these two teams met, where it was a 2-0 sweep, and we have seen them be, Issue has been somewhat competitive in the early couple minutes of the game. We've seen some good invades from Hyper, but after the first 5 minutes, it kind of seems like it falls apart. First Blood starts taking fights, and Issue is never able to respond, usually losing on the other side of the map and losing multiple kills plus objectives on top of it, never trading any gold back in their favor. And we've seen these mid-game gold leads just explode out of control from First Blood. Going into this third game, they really wanted to turn it around. I think they need to head back to basics, really focus on their foundations of the game, get some good warding, grab some strong laning picks so you don't just get rolled over by your composition, and try to get the early gold advantage working in your favor, because we haven't seen First Blood play from behind yet. They need to be put in that situation if Issue Critical wants any chance at the reverse sweep.
And it does draw into another very interesting thing, because you were talking about it, and one of the big things that you and me have been harping on is First Blood's composition not having any real true engage. Like, they never draft themselves with anything that's just true and set in stone. So we'll have to see if they may be able to find that as an exploitable weakness. But draft is flying on by as we are seeing these bans pass us on by.
Yep, it is going to be the Jacks returning to the ban table 3 times in a row. Issue Critical will be returning to that blue side. And they're going to first pick the Varus. This is a pick that Asta has played 2 games now, has been very successful for it. Meech has not been able to punch a hole through this solid bot lane, so this time they're going to take it away.
Yeah, they're going to grab it. They said, all right, something, we need to make you uncomfortable, some shape, some form. But here comes Callista Thresh. And this is going to be a lane that we have seen and known to be a very, very intimidating lane to have to deal with. See how Issue is Critical respond.
The new Hail of Blades Callista is a dominant force in the early game. Varus does do fairly well against it, though. If you can land some good CC onto Callista, you not only inhibit her movement speed, but also her attack speed. Plus, the Morgana being picked up there for the Black Shield, as well as going to the Darius. This is exactly what we asked from them, is grab yourself some good early game picks that you can really fight with. They are answering in Fort.
Yeah, I'll tell you, a blind Darius is definitely something very interesting, because over on the other side, they just locked themselves in a Kennen, and Tony Top has been doing a phenomenal job with counterpick on his side, and Kennen, that's not an easy target for a Darius to be able to get onto as we're going into the second ban phase.
Yeah, no junglers being picked up on either side. The Lee Sin going to be banned away. We'll see what the rest of the bans are going to be. All ready for First Blood, though. Although Issues have picked up some good early game picks, it's also, like you said, been blind. They knew the Varus was coming, they knew the Darius was coming. So 2 counter pick lanes now for First Blood. Despite having red side, they've shown a lot of their composition. Continuing with those jungles, bans, the Olaf and the Graves being hovered.
Yeah, and there it is. The Graves ban has been locked in. So keeping the same bans against Hyper inside of the jungle, trying to keep him on down, as we have seen the Olaf ban. See what else it could possibly be at J4. So Jungle Pool has been pinched quite significantly here in the ban phase 2. And we'll see what First Blood decide to answer with.
Do you have first pick? I would expect them to save their counter pick for their last remaining solo lane. They are going to lock in that Rek'Sai there. An aggressive jungler for them might be answered by the Elise. Very good pair with the Darius. They can land those cocoons. You can start to punish that Kennen, who does have the range advantage, but some pretty crazy burst and all-in potential from that duo.
It is very, very scary if they do decide to lock it in. We have seen them lock in some crazy stuff in the past, and at least a very powerful pick in the right hands. It does get locked now. Issue is critical. What did they decide? Syndra is open, and they are hovering it at the moment.
Yeah, I like this pick. I think it's fine. There's a lot of burst that kind of feeds into your composition. They are looking to run the 1-3-1, where Elise is going to be looking towards the solo lanes in the early game to get advantages.
Ooh.
It's going to be the Kled locked in, command attack, returning to his wacky counter picks. As you can see, it's going to be Robbie Bomb is going to fill out the wacky counter pick. I apologize there. I think this is really interesting. Do they decide to swap this up to the top side and put Darius mid?
It would be really interesting.
My producer just yelled at me no.
Our production is just like, no, just yelling it in our ears, like, stop it, don't talk about that.
Yeah, this is most likely going to be the Dragoon Kled up there, Dragoon Darius up here in the top side.
Yeah. Darius is going to follow Ornn, I'm suspecting, and then the Kled's going to follow the Kennen, I guess.
Yeah, this is most likely we're going to see. Issue Critical, though, finally taking our advice and avoiding the late game, avoiding the scaling, going for that early game power. They've got tons of engage with the charge, bringing in, the Darius and the Elise, trying to land up those slows and skill shots. First Blood Crusade, though, not slouches in the late game. They picked up that Ornn to get that extra gold influx. They've got a good team fight with the Kennen, and they are well equipped to match the skirmishing potential with things like the Callista and the Rek'Sai. So I think this should be probably the most accurate game of what the full extent of these team strengths are, because in the first two, I felt like Issues were a bit disadvantaged because of their draft phase. Now, in its early game, we'll really get to see how these star players match up in the early laning phase when they have the tools to do so.
I am a little bit concerned, though. Like, when you do pick up something like the charge from a Kled, you could be charging right into the storm that is Kennen, and that's a very terrifying prospect for me. I think we're going to have to really keep our eyes on the early game, like you were talking about, being something that Issues Critical need to change around and find advantages for themselves inside of. They really need to find a way to make that turn into their favor, and really find ways to get this Kled going alongside with the Elise and the Darius, because that adds to the pressure, like you were talking about. A 1-3-1 is truly how this composition looks like it would thrive in a lot of different scenarios of a flanking Darius and flanking Kled. I'm excited to see if this is the early game you were just hyping me up on, or if it's going to be First Blood yet again taking advantage of mistakes that Issues Critical has been making constantly.
Well, for Issues, if they don't have, or they better hope they get the early game that they're hoping for, because otherwise you're out of the series. This is the potential last game for them, so I think this is them kind of giving their last hurrah. This is everything they have left on the table. If they cannot pull out a win in this game, if they cannot overcome the early game dominance from First Blood, they will not be able to close out the series. They are playing against the clock this time around. If their solo laners start to fall behind, if that Darius and Kled cannot be points of pressure on the map, their composition will fall apart, and you'll see the team fight and the scaling really come through from First Blood Crusade, and I think we'll end up seeing a 3-0. However, I do not want to count out the fact that these are still incredibly good players. Remember, all of these players on Issues just made all UPL teams, whether it be the first through third. So they can at any point have proven to be able to just shine and carry games. They need to do it right now. We need to see them step up.
Yeah, this is really Issues time to shine, and like you were talking about, you hyped up some of the statistics that came out there, some of the individually most gifted players in terms of the stats, and that showed in the fact of them becoming, all of them becoming part of the all UPL for themselves, all in some shape or form, whether it be first, second, or third, and that's a very big thing to live up to. But First Blood, they are really just looking for blood here, I feel like, inside of this third game. I'm going to be very excited, especially with the fact that there's been so much bot lane action. We started off this series not thinking there was going to be as much, but it's honestly been hectic as it can be in the bot lane. When you add a Callista Thresh, that's a whole nother dimension.
Well, you've seen Asta and Mist be so aggressive in this bottom, and they started off the series, the very first blood that came through was like a level 4 2v2 kill with their Nautilus. So I've been loving the action out of the bot lane. I think that even though they haven't been getting a lot of resources themselves, Hiyami has thrown a couple of ganks their way and they got some dives, but they've been creating so much advantages for themselves just in the 2v2, and that's been a big reason why First Blood has been so dominant, is because they're winning the bottom lane pretty hard.
And Robbie Bob, by the way, is showing himself on the Ornn here, so it's going to be curious. I'm curious to see exactly how the lane matchups are going to go. If it is going to be a case of Darius trying to follow around an Ornn, or if it's going to be a case of them just saying, "All right, well, Kled, you're mid. Like you just deal with the Ornn at that point in time." So I'm going to be very curious because Ornn can do a good job at actually negating some of the strengths of Kled. Can't get pulled in by that bear trap on the rope as long as you have that that flammable drool at disposal.
Yeah, going to be the best matchup for them. Definitely, we're probably going to see a lot of the attention go towards the bottom side of the map, as the Ornn will be trying to play safe side and maybe roam around for those long pick.
Yeah, and that's absolutely a big thing to be able to see. And something that's going to be very big, something that you can always look forward to. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about one of our lovely sponsors of Midwest Esports. Be sure to check out Midwest. They've been around for many, many years. They started as a small student group out of Wichita State University. Since then, Midwest has become one of the veteran organizers inside of the tournament organizing scene. They've been doing a lot of online tournaments with all the craziness going on out there in the world, with quarantine, stay-at-home orders, and stuff like that. They've been a big part of making sure that gamers are still able to compete, have fun, meet new people, while still in the safety of their own home. So be sure to check them out as they host tournaments in all sorts of games: League of Legends, Rocket League, Overwatch, all of the fun stuff out there. For more information, just check them out at their website. That's midwestesports.com. It's Midwest, just like it sounds, esports.com. And you'll be able to find all the information you possibly could ever want. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and go into our third game. So be sure to stay tuned, as this could be our final game here inside of the UPL Finals.
Find your way into this wonderland. Cross the maze, the dark, the innocent. Chase the fate, the thrill, the heaven sent. I got you wild upside down. The labyrinth will guide you far away to a place where senses will decay. Your ghost and mind will shadow play. Find your way into this wonderland. Cross the maze, the dark, the innocent. Chase the faith, the thrill, the heaven sent. I got your world upside down. The labyrinth will guide you far away to the place where senses will decay. Your ghost and mind will shadow play. I got your world upside down. Upside down.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on back to the UPL Finals. We are in game 3, where it is match point in favor of First Blood. Issue is critical on the back foot, looking for the reverse sweep. And let me tell you, they're already stacking up as a group of 5. They're not stacking up as 3 anymore, Audio.
They've completely thrown the playbook out the window. This is a different team that we've seen from all series. They've gone from the 3 stack to the 5 stack. This is their final form.
They have achieved their final form. Apparently their final form is with a Darius that has exhaust. That is a very interesting thing to actually take note of, as it looks like it is the Darius looking to show himself over here in the top lane and show, hey, Kennen, I'm going to be up here, but command attack is going to be there.
Yeah, this tells me that they absolutely 100% are playing to smash the top lane. The fact that he did not take teleport with him means that if this Darius dies and he starts to lose a considerable amount of CS, it is going to be so hard for him to come back with the range advantage that Kennen has. Although Darius is a very strong skirmisher, if you cannot get up close to that Kennen is also a very big lane bully. I could see this lane swinging pretty violently either way, depending on how it shakes out. For Issue is critical, they are hoping and praying that this gamble is going to pay out in their favor.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised. I thought with the way that this Darius was playing super aggressive, pushing himself into that tri-bush, I thought it was possibly they were going to be like, haha, it's definitely going to be Darius top lane. Don't worry, hee. But instead, it actually was Darius staying up into the top lane. So, like you said, this could swing violently either way, and the kiting could be very dangerous here. But, oh, the flash forward! Laying out some aggression for themselves. The Knight now onto Meech, trying to lay it onto him, but it's just going to be him soul shackled on up. The damage coming on through. Meech is going to get rended and taken asunder. As now as King, he's going to be able to find a kill onto I Will Find You, but he goes on down. A double kill for Asta.
Hitting that clutch level up there at the very end of the fight. You saw Asta starting with the Rend level 1. A lot of Kallistas, especially with the Halo Blade, like to take the spear, but it allowed them to get so aggressive. Didn't expect the Rend plus the flash and level 1 from Mist to make sure that they can get enough time to stack up those spears and get the kills. Another 2v2 big win for First Blood on the bottom side.
Yeah, he's actually that was just an insane play. I was not expecting a flash forward from a Thresh at this point in time. And, like, oh, good brute to connect there. Not going to be able to do anything but really delay Asta from being able to back. I wanted to point out, too, this bot lane, all they got to do for their troubles is buy some refillable pots for themselves.
Yeah, it is actually kind of big that they were able to interrupt that recall. It means that Meech can now freeze the wave the best he can outside of his turret and catch up back in farm. It would have looked a lot more disastrous if the Kalista had come back to the lane with a 2-0 and a 15 CS advantage. Still, though, it is a 2-0 Kalista 3 minutes in, and that is scary.
Yeah, Berserker agrees. Rush actually coming on out here. You see Narcissus trying to lay out a little bit of the cheese mechanics. It's going to be a
nice pull.
Passive pop. Beautiful pull, as you just said. And Darius looking very aggressive, playing with these bushes the way exactly he needs to. Is I will find you is over here on the side, does not have Het's flash.
Yes, looking for the hook.
Not going to connect
Ooh,
with it.
just
It is going to have the
missing.
gank coming on here from Hayami. They're going to force a flash immediately, but King is going to go down so quickly. Hayami picking up that kill.
Oh, even blowing the flash and having the black shield on top of him, still, it is going to be Uganda Royalty falling into that fight. Now, 3-1 for first blood. We talked about how this game, more than any other, issues don't have the safety net of the late game scaling. They don't have the Azir. They don't have any of these other carries. So the fact that they are having one of the worst early games so far of the series is incredibly scary.
And it kind of goes back to the narrative of we started off this like looking at the bot lane like we're not sure if this is going to be the bloody lane, right? We weren't sure if this is going to be the highly contested lane. But every single time it goes that the camera pans down to the bot lane, there is constant action happening, and this Kalista Thresh have definitely not been disappointing.
No, it certainly hasn't been. And although Meech is keeping up with farm, the fact that Kalista is just so far ahead right now means that not only does this lane become much scarier, but these early objectives do too. You almost can't contest them at all.
Oh. Kled taking a good amount of damage back, trying to get back onto Skarl. Needed one more hit. Not going to be able to find that for himself, so no Skarl to remount onto. And all of a sudden, this Darius up here in the top lane has taken a royal beatdown.
Yeah, he's at the point where he can't really contest against Kennen at all with such a low health bar, no access to the ultimate. Hayami finding out Hyper, sniffing around that dragon, says, back off, we have bot priority. You're not allowed to start that one up, and he starts it instead.
He started on up. Death Sentence has connected. That's going to be a lantern pool that's going to be able to grab into Kalista. Coming on in for the action. Hayami's going to turn his attention over to the Morgana. The spears are in there. The Ren for the slow, and Hayami picks up another kill in the bot lane.
Absolute dominance here. Now Hayami joining Asta at that 2-0 mark, and you can see, knowing that they have to try to come back into this game, Issues is throwing every member they can down here, but they are just lining up for the firing squad that is Asta. He is dishing out a ridiculous amount of damage, and this game is quickly spiraling out of control.
Absolutely, and with you got a Kalista that's 2-0-2 right now, currently sitting with 100% kill participation. That's terrifying when you pair it together with a 2-0 Rek'Sai that is now got some gold sitting in the pocket that's going to be able to back and just be even more dominant.
Oh, he's going in again.
Look at this damage already coming in. I will find you.
Doesn't
Connect
have
with
flash.
another hook.
He
Bad flash
flashed
shield
to
to
the
come
front.
on in. The heal comes in from Meech, and the Ren is going to come through, leaving him just barely alive.
Ooh, actually looking at that dive didn't go sour. The Morgana shielding herself despite having the flashless ADC sitting in between her and the Thresh. However, not enough damage to finish that one off quite yet. Command attack, wanting to get aggressive.
Yeah, wants to lay out the
Succeeding.
damage, trying to look for something possibly. You see Thresh looking around, seeing if they could possibly go for a hook. They do need to respect this Morgana, as that could be a lot of damage. Fate's Call is going to be used over into the top side. Tony Top's going to be looking to try and use that Slicing Maelstrom to keep the stuns on up, but it's going to be him just getting dumped, as that is a kill to go over to Narcissus.
And the patient shall be rewarded. Dragoon finally being saved from this hellish top lane that he's been subjected to, is able to get the kill with the thanks of Hyper, and now Hayami has to run away from command.
Yeah, here comes the call.
No
The
level
Forge guy. They're
6.
going to use the charge as a strategic retreat this time and get out of harm's way.
Hayami trying to get the flash knockup before the charge came through, because he is unstoppable once he enters it, but a little bit mistiming on that. But a good turn of events here for Issue is Critical. They got an unanswered kill on the top side, evened up that goal just a little bit, maybe bought themselves some wiggle room, could potentially try to go for the Herald or, set up some future plays on the top side. Recognizing that, though, First Blood immediately swaps their bottom lane up here to try to negate that advantage.
Yeah, textbook rotation coming out from them. They're the ones that started off, so they immediately have the advantage on this push. And it's going to leave Tony with some free pressure inside this lane, some free CS to grab, and that's some free money.
Free money is the best kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
And First Blood will be very happy to pick it up. You can see because they rotated first, not only do they get the Herald, or at least get to start it up, but an entire massive minion wave is bleeding out to that turret. Meech has got to go straight there. He can't join this fight yet.
And oh man, this Herald is going to go on down. This is going to be secured.
He is opting for it. They want to contest.
They want to contest it. They're laying out some damage, but you know, Ornn's a thick boy. All right, you can't really do anything to a man of that stature, and they found that out the hard way as he played interference. So Shelly does go over to First Blood.
Yeah, despite the previous games where Ornn was up against a top side with one damage type, just magic, so we could build those armor or magic resist items really quickly, the damage is a bit more split this time. You have the Elise and the Darius, so Ornn has to kind of be really careful about his itemization to try to stop both.
And when you talk about itemization, I can't help but look at all the swords that's into Kled's pocket.
Oh no,
but
look
while
at
this is
Hyper.
happening, they're looking for more, but the Fate's Call just keeps them safe. They look to re-engage this. They're looking to try and jump onto this Morgana. They said, haha, you thought you ambushed us? Joke's on you. We're looking to capitalize on a kill on them, but not going to be able to go any further with it. Now over in the mid lane, Robbie Bob is trying to lay out some damage onto command attack. Not going to be able to find anything too advantageous for either side. As now, Tony just kiting it on back here, trying to respect this Darius.
And he's doing a fairly good job. Ooh, that pullback just whiffing. That's going to give Tony the Needs a straight back.
Hands. They're looking for it, though. Here comes a Cocoon. That's a charge. It's going to be going into the backside. Hayami has the Ignite taken away on him. That's going to be a shutdown. Going down in favor of command attack. Now it's going to be the call to Forge guy going in. Going to be able to connect that onto the Morgana. Here comes the Slicing Maelstrom over inside of the team. Chitch is going to be able to find himself getting that. Tony Top finds himself a double kill. They're looking for more, but command attack is going to be able to get out of there. Meech uses the flash. Death Sentence connects, and his fate is sealed as it is going to be him trading his life for another, but another kill for Twitch Top as now a flash forward by command attack. Jumping onto Robbie Bob, but not going to have anything that comes out of that.
How much they really wanted that play. The second they see somebody in the river, they instantly pull all the triggers. Big difference maker, though. Tony Top is able to teleport to the play. Dragoon doesn't have teleport. He's still running the exhaust. And so just a straight up numbers advantage for First Blood in that fight. A couple of plates went over to the Darius, but it is going to be a 3-for-1 in favor of First Blade. Command attack even blowing the flash to try to make it a bit more of an even trade, but is not able to take out Robbie Bob.
Yeah, I'm still very curious about the amount of swords that are in his pocket right now. He's got a lot. I'm not gonna lie. That's more swords than I'm used to seeing on a Kled.
He's got 3 Doran's blades and 2 long swords, and I mean, yeah, that's gonna allow you to tickle Ornn a little bit harder in the first 15 minutes, but he is so far away from his first item, just finishing the Tiamat 12 minutes in, that it's starting to look even more worrisome. Meanwhile, the Dragon's going down, but the Rift Herald is being popped on the top side. That's a first turret going down for sure. We'll see what else First Blood can pick up.
Yeah, every time, fun statistic is every time that they have used Shelly over
They're gonna find him.
They're looking for
waiting.
it. He's looking for it, possibly.
Oh no!
That, kind of watching, seeing what his options are going to be. The rest of his team are coming on over. He's going to have to look to pull the trigger here sooner or later. He's going in for it. Command attack's going to be found, dismounted, and taken out as the damage coming on through, but he will barely survive. No, he won't. Hayami picks him up on the side as the call of the Forge God as his executioner for them, and that is 3 kills that go on down. They find a knockup onto Hyper. They're looking for possibly more. The Darius is here to try and help, but the Ignite ticking away, and you can't repel from all that damage, as that is going to be yet another kill, and yet again, Shelly summoned 2 towers gained.
A familiar story. We see First Blood Crusade right around the 10 to 15 minute mark make a series of plays and just blow the game wide open. 7,000 gold up. I believe this might be the most dominant early game we've seen this series, which is definitely saying something. And it comes off the back of Asta and Tony Top have been so influential in these fights. And I mean, you see Issue Critical, they're trying to make these desperation plays where they're looking for these fanatic death brushes or these hardcore engages onto, certain members, but they're never able to finish them out. And the First Blood squad is doing a great job of sticking together, working with their team fight tools, and keeping their carries alive.
And now they're looking for something. Cocoon is going to connect onto the Thresh. It looks like Asta immediately turns it around. Oh my god, where did your HP bar go?
That would be that's a lot of damage coming out from Asta. That's the power of the Hail of Blades Callista. Those first couple auto attacks coming out so ridiculously fast. She has a deceptive amount of burst. And 3-0 and 7 is a very impressive tagline. A full item over Meech at this point. Currently sitting 2,400 gold over his counterpart.
Yeah, Asta actually has the highest amount of KP on the team. Sitting at 307 with 10 out of 11 kills being kills that he's participated in. Which is pretty insane if you look across the board and see the next closest person to him is his support at 9. And then his jungler and mid laner at 6. So he has definitely been putting in the finest of work. Now they're looking for possibly another dive. Meech getting the hell out of dodge.
So hard for Issue because anywhere that this Callista is a place where they do not win fights unless they're somehow able to pick this Callista off. And I mean, he is without summoner spells right now, but has been so safe behind his team. There's really nothing that they can take around the map. And as long as First Blood just continue rotating as a death ball to these objectives, options are seeming very limited for Issue.
Yeah, Herald was just secured. The big thing to take note of is Yami, yet again, has that in their hands. And every single time that they have used Shelly, Herald, whatever you want to call them, it's been towers upon towers. I want to point out that Yami bat and got himself an Edge of Night.
He's going so aggressive right now. The full lethality, trying to take advantage of the fact that there is no armor on the side of Issues. And honestly, there might not be any built. Maybe Kled goes into a bit of armor, but with that Vamp Scepter and inventory, it's looking like he's potentially going towards the Blade of the Ruined King or just the Ravenous Hydra to try to deal with the laning phase. Robbie Bobby is fine to just give the laning phase over. He says, hey, we're going to win the team fights, we're going to get all the objectives, and we're going to smash your base like we have 2 games in a row.
I don't even know if that's the case because Robbie Bobby's so far up on CS in comparison too. It's just absolutely nutty. Been doing a fantastic job on that, and you can see them actually balling up as a composition here, going through the bot side jungle, making advantage of all these extra little bushes in favor of themselves. Hook is going to connect. Black Shield is going to be used by Command Attack. Does force him the flash. He's going to go ahead and use the charge to go on forward. Is he going to find himself getting pushed on the way? The face call is going to be used. Call of the Forge Guy going to be able to come on through. It's going to be able to hit Meech onto the backside. Command Attack now in the backside trying to do what he can. But Hayami's going to be able to pick up that kill. Now Meech is going to flash over the wall trying to escape whatever's coming his way. But it's going to be a Proto Belt that's just going to smack him across the face. He's going to find one more Shuriken toss to be able to get a kill. You're going to see Tony get taken out by the tower. And then you look at First Blood, they went in a little too deep and they got punished under the tower.
3-for-2 trade in favor of First Blood, but those couple of kills traded back at the end, most notably the jungler, means that, well, they're still going to go towards the dragon. As you see, Hyper's actually just going to the top side. He doesn't care about the Drake. He wants his Gromp. And despite there being no smite for First Blood, they still have a Callista, and they are going to pick up their second dragon of the game.
Look at all those spears lodged into them. Every AD carry's dream when they get to play Callista is to be able to lodge that many spears inside of something and watch them all implode. Just satisfying damage to see.
Top of it, Robbie Bob gonna pick up a solo turret. Ooh, good blind cue there by Tony to realize that there's somebody waiting for him in that brush. That could have been a very easy pick for Issues.
I love seeing players that actually will throw their spells into bushes like that too, right before they start going there. And look at this, he doesn't throw his Q this time. No Shuriken to save him this time. He's going to find himself slowly but surely possibly going down. Will he? This dive is going in deep.
Gotta go down.
And they got him on this basic. Going to be able to secure it, but while this is happening, we've seen this before. Look at what's happening on the other side of the map.
That's the big question always, what can you do with it? The goal is to get a pick and then get something afterwards with the numbers advantage. But although the kill go over to Issues, it's 2 turrets already falling for First Blood. It's a net positive play for them. And now they're going to take this entire jungle and look at the wards.
Yeah,
look at that bottom side of the map.
The dust and it's that connected over onto the top side. Darius is going to get caught out onto the bottom side of it. He's going to find himself going down as Hayami goes on away. Morgana now in a terrible situation. Is going to go ahead and go on down to the Thresh. While onto the back side, the Ornn is still back there and still killing them all. Hayami finds 1, finds 2, finds 3. Picks him up easy peasy as the Ornn just solo kills Meech in the backside. And this is looking traumatic for Issue is Critical.
All right, and I hate to do this, but I think we have to probably call this one. It would take a massive blunder by First Blood to throw this game away. They're going to be breaking down the base pre-20 minutes. The inhibitor falling just after that crucial mark. If they want, they can fall back to the Baron that has just spawned.
They have options ahead of themselves here. They see what they decide to go for. The inhibitor is going to go down again. It looks like Issue is Critical is looking for a hard fight here. Manicat does not have the charge available for him. They're looking for a fight. It looks like it might get turned around if they're not careful. Going to be able to catch on to Tony Top. He's going to use the Slice and Maelstrom. He gets dunked as a response, but that damage has already been done. They're going to be able to find 3 kills for themselves. The team of Issue is Critical is completely scattered to the wind. King is left all alone. He's flanking by himself. He's running at him. He's looking for something, but he's just going to be another notch in another spear for Asta, as it is going to be First Blood becoming your UPL champions here as they look to just end the game.
They're not even going to need to back to pick up the Baron. The fastest win of the finals so far. 21 minutes and 6 seconds is all it's going to take for First Blood Crusade to clean this one up. What a series from them. Even like Tony at the very end of the game goes back to base to buy 6 Chalice of Harmonies.
Well, he died. So he started that fight off by dying. He didn't go back willingly. He got kicked back to the fountain. It was like, all right, well, I guess I'll buy myself a couple cups to drink out of. But hey, you know what? When you're the champion, you get to have the cup because you get to raise the cup. So congratulations to First Blood for being able to pick up that W. And it was just the fastest game of the series here in the 3rd game. And you said it. We saw a composition that we liked, some early aggression to come out, but this bot lane came out swinging from the side of First Blood, and it never stopped.
Yeah, it absolutely did. I mean, from game 1 where they got that First Blood just to start off the series and what was going to be just a complete manslaughter by First Blood Crusade, really living up to their name. To that last game where Asta just popped off on the Callista. You can see why it was banned away in the first 2 games. He was so dominant. Everywhere that he went on the map, it just seemed that structures and champions just seemed to fall over by themselves. So much gold was just given to them for free. And we saw signs of life, I guess you can say, from Issues is Critical. And I want to stress how good both sides were. I mean, we had some incredible names stacked up against each other this time, this series, and for it to be such a flop where First Blood just came out of the gate and destroyed Issues, you know, with some of the best players in their roles. I mean, you really got to start to question what would it take to take down this squad, because ever since they put in this new roster, it seems like they are unstoppable.
Yeah, honestly, like you have to look star-studded performances all around. Robbie Bob, somebody who you were actually looking at and being like, I don't know how he's going to match up here, put out a stellar performance and was absolutely phenomenal in almost all aspects and was just solidly good. Hayami had a fantastic game 1 and game 3 on the rec side. Tony Top drew so much pressure. Like he was literally a sponge, just grabbing all the aggression from any point in the map. And Asta was just so good. And it was just so great. But with that being said, I mean, we have an MVP here for the finals. And Audio, I'm going to let you take it away and announce who the MVP is.
Yeah, so I mean, there were so many good possible choices, but it is going to be Robbie Bob for that incredible performance in the mid lane. Game number 2 is a really big moment for him on the Echo, just completely destroying the game. His second item, Magi's, and ending the game 25 stacks, going deathless on that game. But even when he went on something like the Ornn, is able to go deathless 4-0, playing the weak side of the map. He has just been a complete rock for First Blood this series. A big reason why they got a lot of their advantages, able to clean up any of the fights that did go wrong, and a big reason why they didn't lose anything on the back end of those plays, was able to really hold it down mid. I think all the players played an amazing series, but Robbie Bob really stood out in this best of five.
Yeah, I feel like Robbie Bob was just way too good at everything that he did. He made the season UPL season MVP just look like another bump for him to be able to get this win and just put out just the best performance that we've seen from him. And his numbers do not lie. You can look at it across the board. Just absolutely had so much pressure on Vigar. Played the Echo phenomenally in game 2. And in game 3, we just saw him play the Ornn. Of course, Ornn, I always say is the champion that drools on himself. But hey, he did pretty good things, was always there with the card of the Forge God, and really did phenomenal for himself.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations.
Yeah.
That is amazing for First Blood Crusade. They end off the series incredibly strongly. And if there were any doubts coming into this series that they might not be the top dogs in the UPL, those doubts are completely demolished now. They have proven they are by and above, a cut above the rest of the competition. And I mean, I can't wait to see what this squad does going forward, because these players, I mean, I don't even feel like this was really peak First Blood play right there. It kind of felt like they had a bit of a speed run there. It felt pretty easy.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah, and Issues Critical, I mean, we saw some uncharacteristic things from them. They showed uncharacteristic weaknesses. They were spread apart quite a bit. It does seem like they were scattered a lot of times. And sometimes it is the stronger team that shows up on the day. And Issues Critical, they didn't, I don't feel like they played as strong as they showed us inside of playoffs. And that is definitely felt like it today. But hey, that's nothing to take away from First Blood, because they absolutely deserve to win here. And it does come back to Issues Critical. I bet you they're going to look back at next season and say, all right, this is some stuff that we have to look at, fits, and see if they'll be able to come back into the next season even stronger.
Yeah, of course, they had a good showing at time against the First Blood squad, but it just seemed like they were outclassed in the lanes. The plays that they made were a bit uncoordinated, and they were never able to trade back when First Blood was able to get big kills. So definitely have high hopes for this roster. Again, they're all UPL players, so they're definitely not just poor performing in general, but it was First Blood who were the better team.
Yeah, they shined brighter on the day, and hey, when it comes down to finals, that is absolutely what matters when it comes down to the finals. If you're not performing on that day, well, sucks to suck. Time for that team to be able to raise the cup. That's exactly what it is. So congratulations yet again to First Blood. And you know what? Shout out to everybody that is inside of the chat that came in, checked out the UPL finals. You're part of the reason why the amateur scene keeps thriving the way it does. So we appreciate every single one of your beautiful souls. With that being said, I believe that is going to be it for us here tonight. So be sure to stay tuned on Thursday. I believe we will have UML on Thursday, 8 p.m. EST. Be sure to come on back around and catch some of the finest action out there in all of the amateur scene. And we will catch you all there. Have a great night.